Hello, it's Keith Keller in Melbourne, Australia. And today we're doing a very, very interesting show called How to Connect with Your Audience by Sharing Your Story. Now, we've got quite a few interesting ideas to throw around here, and we've got quite a few people coming in throughout the show to talk about this. If you've got any questions about sharing your story, and using that as a means to generate clients or connections or friends, then please ask those questions here, and I'll throw those through to the guests. We always aim to get to 100 comments on the show, and I'd love to have that happen today. Because it's the Anchor Day show, I'll talk about this in a minute. Because it's Anchor Day, Wednesday, 10 a.m., I'm multi-streaming this to YouTube and to LinkedIn, and I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on that. The reason why I love LinkedIn is the numbers. It's got over 1 billion users, 1.1 billion users now, I think, and that's where they are. And where are you calling in from or listening in from? And just that clarifies again the power of LinkedIn. And there's my LinkedIn account. If you can't make the show or listen to the show in its entirety, I have actually created a series of small snippets for you on SoundCloud, which is a sort of an alternative to Spotify, a different one. Hello, Joshua. How you doing? Jump in if you want to talk. I'm very interested in how you're using Restream and if you're using Google Notebook and these sorts of things. I'll send you the link in a minute. And if you want to know more about what's coming up, I'm very, very proud to say that I have actually got events planned all the way through until the end of September, which is actually 10 weeks away. So if you go to Where is Keith Today, you will see that my shows are all the way through to September. There's 2 a week now, and I'd love for you to talk about a bit more about that. Come on my show. I'm happy to feature you on your shows. And I'll just play a little bit of music now while I sort of do some back channeling. None of the assigned guests have arrived yet, so I'll just fiddle about and see if I can get some of those guests, just chase them up, see where they're going. We live busy lives, so I'll just play a little bit of lo-fi, and we'll set the show up, and see get it going. Hello again. I think I'm having a little bit of trouble finding the guests that were supposed to come today, so we may have a much shorter show than I thought. If you do have any comments, please add your questions and comments here. I know there are some people listening, so the concept is quite interesting. How to connect to your audience using storytelling by sharing your story. I had some guests assigned to that, and they didn't come. So that's a bit of a pity, but that doesn't matter. We've got to wing it. I always like to get to 100 comments if I can. Unlikely if no one's coming that I don't have a show, so I won't probably do that today. Hello, everyone. What a wonderful day to be seen, heard, and remembered. Um, I'm really interested in this story because a good mate of mine, Americo, in Toronto, has got a fantastic story to share about this. And if you want to come up on stage and talk about that, mate, it'd be great. We're constantly pushing the boundaries of what social audio is. A lot of people haven't heard of it. It's not simply an interview like a podcast where you turn up and go away. It's a social interaction. It's a community feel. It's a very much an immersive experience. Not everyone's used to that, and several of the guests have balked at the process. A bit embarrassing, but here I am hanging on, talking to the wall. But if you want to come up on stage, please do. We have a great idea for a show today. I'm not sure it'll actually turn into something real now, but that doesn't matter. It's all part of the fun. As you know, I do love to multi-stream, and I'm streaming this show to YouTube and to LinkedIn, but I can send it to others. We are doing quite a lot of research into what LinkedIn is really about, in the sense that it has 1 billion users. And I did some research today that indicates that 27 million people in Canada have a LinkedIn account and use it quite regularly. Now, that's highly debatable. Well, how about how often they're using it? But 27 million Canadians have a LinkedIn page, and about 5 million of them live in Toronto. Right now, I would argue, and I'd be very interested to know this, but I would argue that that's probably a bigger reach than the local radio stations are getting. I don't know this for sure. I've been playing with this idea that radio and social audio sort of are competing for an audience. And I personally don't listen to the radio anymore. I'd be interested to know if you listen to the radio anymore and whether the LinkedIn can take the place of that. Here's where LinkedIn hangs out. It's a very, very interesting story. We do have a number of really cool auto-generated or AI-generated shows on my SoundCloud account, and I'd love you to join me there as well. And indeed, as I said a few minutes ago, I actually have shows now planned until the end of September. So, with that in mind, and with the few people listening online, what I'll do, if you're not really in the mood to talk today, that's okay. We're all busy. What I'll do is I'll play a little bit of music, see if there is an appetite for a bit of a show today, and if not, given that my guest didn't turn up, I'll just go and do other things. I'm actually going to run an experiment. I'm going to run an experiment later today on my laptop. So hang out for that, probably in about half an hour. If this doesn't run, I'm going to move into the spare room. I just had this idea that it might be fun to just plug into the laptop without any gadgets. But Americo has arrived and made this is pretty interesting. This idea of storytelling, isn't it?
Well, glad to be back. Very, very fascinating aspect of an agenda, and I will not leave you hanging. I have stories to share, and we can still make a great conversation out of this. Storytelling is so important. It helps everyone connect emotionally with their community, and whether that community is one of a business acumen, or one just of academia, or simply just someone trying to build their LinkedIn presence. Storytelling goes deeper than we care to imagine. And that's where, you know, a lot of great relationships unfold is through stories. People start to resonate and their guard comes down naturally because Americo's not here to pitch a
Yeah.
product or
Look,
a
I
service.
actually want to pick up on this. I got invited to this, what looks to be an awful pitch fest. You can just tell. You just tell by the look of it. And look, they might share some information that might be useful, but they're really just trying to sell you stuff. And it's very thinly disguised as a pitch fest. Right? The great thing about these social audio events is that we're chatting, and by default, you will be able to tell that we know what we're talking about. And if that is of interest to you, then we can help you. But we very rarely pitch you that. We want to share. It's a different style of presentation, and not everyone's up for it. Most people just want to. They want to talk for 45 minutes and then pitch. They're in and out in an hour, and they do 6 a day. That's not my style. My style is to talk. I know what I'm talking about. If you want to talk about that, I'm very happy to do that. But I'm not going to pitch you. I'm not going to hit you over the head with my offering, which we're all getting a bit sick of. So let's pick up on this idea of storytelling, and please ask questions if you've got an idea of this, because from what I can tell, I've done some research on this. Because to be honest, this is not my forte. I mean, I'm a pretty private guy in my personal time. I'm not telling you anything about me, really. I'm not that really into that. But apparently, it's a thing. So if you can be authentic, and I'm just googling this, and share your story in a way that feels natural and genuine, and appear vulnerable, and share your struggles and challenges, there's significant evidence to prove that this is what actually consumers want. They want to hear real stories from real people who have been there where they want to go or have been. And pick up on this, mate, because this is new information to me, because I'm quite a private person.
And so was I for the longest period. But it's really about finding balance and knowing where to draw the line between privacy and vulnerability that you're comfortable in sharing. Because vulnerability resonates, and I had no idea how powerful sharing our vulnerabilities are. Because our audible message and our written message, when it resonates, it creates imagery, it creates emotion, and from that emotion sparks conversation. People reach out and say, hey, I feel what you're saying. It resonates with me. The same thing happened to me. Or, what you shared earlier is something that I'm interested in learning more. Can we, you know, get on a call and get to learn a little more about each other?
Oh, I love
And,
I just love this. So let's pick up on this about being authentic. If you're a bit reluctant to do that, where do you start? Do you start with very generic discussions about, well, look, I was a bit shy to get on camera and I did it, and here's how I did it, and I didn't die. And I came out the other side, and actually it was quite a lot of fun in the end. Is that the sort of thing you're talking about?
absolutely. And here's a real life example that I'm going to share. Um, I had a friend of mine who's out in Western Canada reached out to me and shared a personal story of someone in her local area who's having trouble finding work. He's new to the country, he's educated, but just can't crack that first opportunity. And a friend of mine reaches out saying, hey, how can we help this person? Like this, they went to the extent of calling a local radio show to share their story.
Wow.
And I wouldn't say baffled, surprised that there was enough courage to call in and say, hey, here's my story. The headlines might say, um, you know, job numbers are up month over month, year over year. Unemployment is what it is. It's stable. But someone reached out and say, hey, Here's my story. Here's the difficulty I'm having that doesn't perhaps align with the narrative in the local news community. So I'm reaching out to him, spoke to him earlier this afternoon. We're going to jump on a call, and I'm going to try to help bring his narrative to my community to see how far, another social experiment, how far we can take the LinkedIn effect to help individuals who bring their vulnerabilities and bring their story. So I'm going to give this gentleman a plug. His name is Zane L. Zane. He's got a couple hundred followers. Now let's surprise him and start jumping in his profile.
Yeah.
So that he can experience what the LinkedIn effect is like.
Well, it's pretty amazing because you and I both have shared stories about how there's people living in your town that you've never met and would never meet because you just don't hang out there in their circle. And guess what? I know them. And I think, well, you're in the same town, probably be 10, 20 kilometers away. Maybe it's worth a coffee. What do you think? And it turns out you've met some of these people, or at least should talk to them, and you've got quite a lot in common with them. And you may never have met them in your life, just bumping into them at the market. And
That's
so
correct.
the LinkedIn effect is quite amazing. Now, one of the things I mentioned earlier, I want to do this research. I'm pretty sure I'm right. 27 million Canadians have a LinkedIn page, and 5 million of them live in Toronto. Right. Now,
So
I would be surprised if the local radio station had a 5 million listeners. I would be very surprised. Even the breakfast show on the top rating radio station in Toronto would struggle to have 5 million listeners, I would think. So LinkedIn, and especially the show we're doing next week, the show about LinkedIn Lives being a great way to meet new people. I would argue that LinkedIn Live events are just as powerful as going on the radio. And that would be but we have a real life scenario for this. So 27 million people living in Canada have a LinkedIn page. They probably know someone who knows someone. Now, if we can collectively work on that, I'm guessing this person's in Canada. No? Yes?
So this person's out in Western Canada. They're in Alberta.
Alberta. Okay. Oh, that's right. That's east, isn't it?
West. Well, west from
Sorry.
where
Yes. West for you.
East for you.
West for you. Yes. So Alberta. So near Calgary, near Edmonton, that sort of
That's
thing.
correct.
Red Hat or Medicine
Hat. Yeah.
Medicine Hat. There's cool names you have for your little towns. So anyway, so there's a person in Alberta, Canada, a million miles away from me, and a long way from you. But he or she is in Canada, and 27 million Canadians use LinkedIn. Now, I reckon there's something in that. I reckon we should sort of see if we can get something going for him. And it's all part of the courage. Now, I need to learn from this because I'm not sure I'd be doing that. I don't think I would ring up the radio station and say, can't I get a job, guys? Is there a way you can? I wouldn't have the courage to do that. Like, I don't think I would have thought of that. I reckon that's pretty clever, don't you?
I am, and I'm sending a text message right now. See if he's open to joining us.
Yeah. So his name is Zane
L. Zane.
Yeah. But let's pick up on this idea of authenticity. This idea of sharing the real stories. Now, as a job seeker, it would be easy but heart-wrenching to actually share those stories, but it might lead to an employment opportunity that's where someone knows someone that knows someone that can help, right?
That's right. And I believe it was Bez who often shows up here, who mentioned that most job opportunities, over 85% of job opportunities, are now being filled through networking.
Yeah, look, it's called the hidden job market. And it's a really interesting strategy because if you think that, let's just put your hat on for the employer. The employer has some jobs to fill. They've got to pay someone to find those jobs or advertise to find those jobs. So they pay a recruiter, and the recruiter does all the work and then finds the person, and then they pay that person, the recruiter, for that task. And they're thinking, well, geez, that's a lot of work and a lot of money. What do you know anyone that needs a job? Yeah, look, I do. Actually, I do. I met this guy at a barbecue last week, and he's out of work. I reckon he'd fit in. Wow, that you just saved me 10 grand because the recruiter's got to charge a fee.
That's
They've
right.
got they've got to advertise on your behalf. They've got to do the work. You've got to pay their rate. They've got to find the person. Then they bring them to you, and they go, "Well, look, I've found this person. I think that's right. Wow, good. You've done all that work for me, but there's a fee associated with that, which is a fair exchange." But employers are thinking, well, what if we can bypass that? That not pay the fee. And so it's, do you know someone? Do you know someone who knows someone? You'd be surprised how often this happens. It's called the hidden job market. And it's because of the, the difficulty, the difficulty associated with getting people employed. It's very difficult and it's costly. It costs the employer a lot of money, thousands of dollars.
It does. It does.
So if you can have the courage to just put yourself out there, you don't know what you don't know. But if we all take that networking effect and say, look, I do know someone actually looking for someone, and why don't you ring them? They're just up the road. Hello, Marsha. Jump in and tell us what you think about the networking effect. We're talking today about the idea of telling your story and being courageous enough to tell your story in a way that resonates with a potential employer, a potential employee, or a potential client. And we're going to share some stories about how that's happened. And there's millions of stories about this. And it's very interesting that if we can have the courage to do it, there are people on the other side of the microphone that are thinking, you know what, that's exactly what I need. And I didn't even know that. And so I think it's a new type of communication style. It's not new in the sense that we've been talking around the campfire for about 1,000,000 years, but it's a new paradigm for marketing your business and yourself as an employee, because you do a bit of both of this now, don't you? You do a lot of work with job seekers, so you'd be hearing this a lot, that people you've got to be more courageous. Yeah,
That is correct. The job market has changed exponentially. A few years ago, it was a employee market, and you were fighting job offers off with a stick. Today, you gotta juggle and balance a lot of social etiquette, knowing how to show up, where to show up, what to say when you show up, um, in order to be seen, heard, and remembered. And it's become quite the task. And for some who grasp it, they reach out, they ask for help, or they just adapt and adopt what's trending and get it.
yeah.
But for others, there's conversations like these where you and I and many others are sharing best practices. Here's what works. And storytelling is a compelling, proven behavior, if you want to call it a behavior, that works.
I love this comment by Cooper. This is one of the reasons, and Bez would attest to this. This is one of the reasons why recruiters are an essential cog in this wheel. You could know someone who knows someone, but they might not be the right person for what you're looking for. Just the fact that you know someone is not enough, right? I get you, Cooper. This is exactly what we're going to talk about today, and why recruiters do charge what they charge and can do it is that they sort of, what's the word? They fit the client to you. It's a very valuable skill. You know, if someone says, "Oh, I know someone. He lives up the road, and he, left school in year 10, and he's sort of been working as a bit of a handyman for a while, but I think he might be all right if you wanted to build a rocket. Like, you'd probably be able to learn it. I don't know. It can't be that hard. They've already done it. They went to the moon 50 years ago. I mean, someone's done it before. Surely that's a learnable skill." And he seems to be a nice person. He needs the money. He's got 4 kids. So why don't you give him a go? Yeah, well, he might be a nice person and he might need the money, but can he do the job? I don't know, but he's a nice person. So, look, what you're saying there, Cooper, is absolutely, absolutely relevant. What do you think? How do you find that sort of concept of fit? America, do you want to pick up on this?
Well, I look at this in two different ways. If I put my hiring manager hat, there's will versus skill. And a lot of recruiters, a lot of hiring managers are looking for that utopic unicorn who fits 100% of the job descriptions and accountabilities. However, there are people who've got more will than they have skill, and they are your diamonds in the rough. They want to learn, they want to make an impact, they want to prove to themselves and to the opportunity that stares them in the face and say, I can do this. I can not only do this, but I can do it with confidence. I can learn, I can make an impact, and I'm destined to do it. And anyone who gives that individual that opportunity seldomly regrets it.
I love this. Al Zane has joined.
Yeah.
Now, this is very, very cool. I'll run you through some of Zane, welcome to the call. If you can you turn your camera off and add your thumbnail, which you'll have somewhere on your hard drive, just a picture of yourself, like we have here, and it'll float around as a speech bubble. If not, no worries. You're not familiar with the concept, I'll bring you in. I'll give you a couple of minutes to set that up, and then I'll bring you in. Otherwise, it'll just look as a ZE, which we can do in the interim. Tell us what you're doing, and how are you? We got you there, Zane. Now, you're probably not familiar with the format, but you're live on air. So what I'll do is, if you're not sort of ready, I'll put you back. I'll put you back in the green room, and we'll get you set up. But look at what happened there, mate. Did you see that? You turned up. You said, "I know someone who knows someone. Hey, let's get him on." And here we are. He's there.
Absolutely.
And now, there's a couple of, while Zane's setting up his camera and things, there's a couple of things going on here. Let's just pick up on this. The hidden job market is the most vibrant because a tip from the inside normally leads to getting a foot in the door. This is very, very important for the job seeker, and it saves the employer lots and lots and lots of money. So I really, really need to tap into the hidden job market. Cooper was saying, look, we're definitely able to. We should get companies to train. I'm trying to read all the comments and all the private chatting, and there's a couple of things going on here, so apologies if I'm a bit incoherent. Some jobs need a background, and others are just tough to learn on the outside. Totally agree, and we will have a bit of a discussion about this.
Sorry.
Zane is having quite a lot of problems unmuting. I'm not quite sure why that would be. It might be because he's on his phone. What I would recommend, Zane, is join on your laptop. You should be able to join on your laptop and unmute. You should have a picture of yourself on your laptop. And what we'll do is, we've got quite a few people on the call live wanting to help, so we can brainstorm some ideas. And wouldn't it be like the ideal scenario if we could find Zane a job and then he comes back in 2 weeks and tells us about it? Wouldn't that be the coolest thing?
That would be storytelling at its finest.
Storytelling 101. So Look, guys, I can't get a job. What are you thinking? A guy called Toronto, Americo in Toronto, really lovely guy, helps out, gets on the show in Australia. The guy in Australia helps him out, gets him a job in his local town. He's happy. America's happy. I'm happy. The employer's happy. Everyone wins. This is like utopia in real life. Like this is happening. This is actually happening. So some companies are hiring based on skill and personality, and there's some value in that. Very value in that. And you call it will versus skill. I think there's something to be said for this, and it's a very interesting discussion. Uh, Maybe Zane's hardware is giving him trouble unmuting, so he's trying again on his laptop, and maybe he can reboot. And that's a very good idea. I've never had this problem with someone couldn't unmute. I've never actually experienced that before, so that's a good lesson for us. Live in real time. Starbucks never asked me about my coffee knowledge when they hired me. When I asked them why they didn't, they said, "We can teach you to make coffee. We can't teach you to be a happy camper at 5:30 in the morning." Right? It's personality, will versus skill. I can learn to make coffee. I don't think I'm ever going to be a nice person at 5:30 in the morning. I'm probably not a good fit for Starbucks. My wife gets up at 6 o'clock in the dark, walks to the cafe, and she sometimes drags me with her. And I'm thinking, well, I just got up, but these guys have been here for an hour and they're into it. And I'm thinking, it's bloody 6 in the morning. The sun hasn't even come up. How can you possibly be awake? How can you possibly be happy? Oh, well, you sort of get used to it. I get up at 4. 4 o'clock. It's just coffee. Come on. Right? Anyway, I had this really big discussion. So this is true. We can teach you to make coffee. We can't teach you to be happy at 5:30 in the morning. I'm not sure I could work at Starbucks. I mean, I just worked that out, just in case I ever thought I might do that. So, very good point. Will versus skill. It's not rocket science. It's coffee, right? Now, coffee is important. You ask my wife; she gets really angry if the coffee is shit. She goes off. But she's a coffee snob in the same way that I'm a sound snob. You no idea. Like in Australia, we are just so into this. So she'll go back and hang on. This is a very weak coffee. It's quite warm. Can you make it again? Yep, you can. We can. No worries. We won't charge you for that. I'm so sorry. We'll remember next time. Good. I come every day. You should have got it right by now. So this is very important. Like you can't teach personality.
No, you can't. Or attitude.
Yeah, you can't. And so the idea of telling your story, and this is why a lot of these interviews are very behavioral. If you haven't heard that story, can you tell me an example of when you were a happy camper at 5 in the morning? Oh, wow, I work at Starbucks. I love my job. I've got up at 4 every morning willingly, make coffee, get there, bright as a button. Oh, wow, you sound like a pretty cool dude. Yeah, you'll do. I'm very fascinated by this because I would have thought prior to this storytelling trend that we all employed based on skills. Flat white was the Australian gift to the world. I would agree with that. So we might actually meet our 100 today, and I think if we just
We're doing it.
If we talk about coffee, I think we'll get 100 coffee. We'll get 100 comments about coffee. Let's aim for 100 comments about coffee today. It's a real thing. It's a story, but while we're helping Zane get his technical challenges sorted, you've introduced this idea of will versus skill. No, I'd never heard this phrase, and I know that Richard Branson says he picks his staff based on attitude rather than skill, because he thinks that most skills are learnable, and it picks up on Cooper's question. Should what happens if the guy around the corner is a lovely guy but can't do the job? Can you train him or her to do it? I would be very fascinated to hear your take on that, Cooper. How many jobs are just not teachable on the job? And how many people can learn them on the job. So I think this is a fascinating discussion.
Well,
Um,
here's an interesting fact. If I can piggyback on a
yeah,
couple of
please.
things that you said, you touched earlier on the 27 million active members, most of which, and I would say it's a high percentage, are all educated. But how many of us went through our academic years, got degrees, got certificates, got all this training, and didn't land the job tied to the discipline that we were
Oh
taught?
man. Oh, what a great comment. Oh, what a great. My wife studied psychology to master's level, and she now works as a financial advisor. It's a great question. How many people? Let's ask that question of the group. How many people are working in the field they studied at in college, what we call uni? I would say a very small amount, because you get out of college, you're all full of beans. You've studied for 5 years. You got so much money. You're thinking, I better get a job. There's no jobs in my field. Well, what else is there? So, as a graduate of psychology at a master's level, like they snapped her up. She was just having people knocking her door down. Well, come and work for us. I mean, you must be pretty clever if you went to uni for 5 years. You can have any job you want. What do you want? Right? She just took the best offer at that time, not a long time ago, and that's because she's educated. Now she hasn't worked in psychology, hasn't had a single day working in psychology for money since she graduated. Fascinating, fascinating. Good question. Good insight. What led you to that? You know, a lot of people that don't work in the field they studied.
Well, I don't, and many don't. And there was a post that was trending. I'd say maybe 6 months ago. I may have come across it. It may have been recorded longer. And it was Sylvester Stallone who was, I don't know if it was his voiceover. There's so many deep fakes now that you don't know who's who and whether or not it's the authentic person. But the message was tied to education and university. And education doesn't guarantee you employment. I'm
Yeah.
paraphrasing here. Doesn't guarantee you employment. It just prepares you for what life has coming ahead. It teaches you how to manage your time. For 4 years, you show up, you get your assignments in on time, you get a grade, and that's what real life is all about. You're going to graduate. Your degree might not mean anything because you're not going to find that job aligned to the area of study, but you now know, and an employer has confidence that you show up on time, you get your work done, and your grades are aligned with key performance indicators that a business is accountable for. So that's all it does. You just pick the subject matter in which you want to study, but the fundamentals is, can this person show up, do what they're told, and do it well? And that's all it
Yeah.
does.
What a great insight. And hello, Lachelle. We're talking about the idea of, do you now work in the field you studied, or did you take a job that's not related? It's a fascinating topic. We're actually got a live case study here with Zain El Zain, who's actually now added his picture. That's great. Tell us what you're doing there, man. How do you know America? Tell us the story. It's a very cool story.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
We can.
Awesome. Well, we figured this out. All I had to do is just grab my laptop from home. Um, Hi everyone, my name is Zane. I've came in contact with you actually through a friend that listened to me going on the radio morning show yesterday as I pled for the city and basically pitched myself to the entire city over here on Radio Live to find a job because the online applications, ATS systems, um, everyone is everyone is on their couch hitting that apply button, and you're not doing anything different. So I had to come up with some creative ideas, and going live on air was the first of them and
Oh,
getting
this
a
is very good. Well, let's just pick up on what's happening here. I'm in Melbourne, Australia. I've got a good
okay.
following in Edmonton and Alberta, and I've got friends in Medicine Hat and other funky names. Really cool towns with funky names, Medicine Hat and Red Bull, and I can't remember the name of these towns, but it's just
Red Deer,
such a
yeah.
funky area. I've been to Alberta. I've been to Head Smashed in Buffalo Jump, which is near Fort McLeod. I stayed in
Yeah.
a teepee in Kananaskis country in 1996. So we are aligned in the sense that I know where you are in the world.
Hmm.
I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated by the fact that you've
Yeah.
had the courage to ring up. What happened? Tell me the story. What did you ring up about, and what's your ideal job? And let's see
Awesome. Yeah,
what
exactly. So I'll tell
join.
you what happened with the idea about going live on radio. So I have a mentor that I've been seeing for about 5 months now, and we were having a conversation last week, and he asked me a pretty challenging question. Do you, after like talking about it's not working, and I had a really promising lead, and it turn didn't go through. So we were having that tough conversation and what to do next. That frustration build up, and which is natural because I believe I'm at a point that had so much frustration, frustrating experiences before that you're not numb to it, but you're certainly aware that what's happening. So it's just the part of pushing through that you need the support, and that's what I found from him. So basically, we're talking about, okay, the market is tough. What are the craziest uncomfortable ideas that if I do, I would be able to go to sleep that night knowing that I
Hmm.
gave it 100%.
I
Um,
love this idea because with AI and all this tech, we can be forgiven for thinking, well, look, I've applied for 100 jobs today. I did my job.
mhm,
But it's not
yeah,
working.
hmm,
It's not working. So what
yeah,
you've done, and I want to introduce to my very good mate Bez, who lives in Atlanta. He talks about this all the time, like he's got courses on this. You got to step outside the box. If it's easy for you to apply for 100 jobs every day, it's just as easy for the recruiter to say, "Yep, I got 100 applications today." It's just
hmm,
as easy for them to ignore them because we're living in that sort of ease of use world. I just made that up. We're living in an ease of use world. So you're not standing out. You're just another number. You're just another application in a world where you can apply for 100 jobs a day and they can vet 100 jobs a day. No one's winning. It's just very vanilla. But going on the radio and saying, guys, look, I'm just putting my heart on my sleeve and saying, look, I've been applying for 5 months and I need money. I mean, I want a job.
believe it or not, that was easier than applying 100 than shooting 100 applications.
Yeah.
Uh,
And that's where the power
at
of
least for me.
storytelling.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's where the power of storytelling really, really gets people and pulls at their heartstrings because you have a story, you exposed your vulnerabilities, and if I were to refer back to, and I quote our friend Lachelle, you're speaking from your scars and not from your wounds, and I love that, and that stuck with me, Lachelle. Y- you know what it's like to apply. Listen, I was laid off 3 times in the last 5 years, so I totally get what it's like. And the job markets have changed exponentially, but in the wrong direction. 3 years ago, there was an average of 400 applicants for every job opening. Today, when I last checked these stats, it was 800 to 1. So there's a lot of people vying and jockeying for position, but there's way more than there are positions. And you did one thing that very few people do, and that's step
Yeah.
outside your comfort zone
And
to make
Yeah.
it's just gonna work. It's gonna work. I mean, it'll work. Someone will get this, someone will hear this, and someone will go, wow.
My other idea was to go hold up a sign and go day one, day two, day three of trying to get a job in person and bypass the online applications. Give me 5 minutes. That's what the sign
Ah,
would say.
wow. Give me 5 minutes day one.
Give me 5 minutes.
There's
That's
a
all.
guy I think on Instagram called Man with the Sign.
Yeah.
And all he does every day, he puts up a sign, something like, drink more water. It's good for you. Anyway, so he's done it like every day for about a year and a half. And he's I'm talking about him, Man with the Sign.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
we in the same way that the job market has changed, our power has changed as well. Like I didn't know you 10 minutes ago. Now I know that you live in Alberta, somewhere near Moose Jaw, uh, and Medicine Hat, and I'm just going to find all these really funky names. I think
Yeah.
that they're all in that state. Moose Jaw,
Well, in effort to attract people in my area, I'm in Edmonton actually. Well,
Edmonton.
we mentioned that earlier, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not far from Head Smashed in Buffalo Jump and Fort McLeod, and I've been
Not
there.
too far.
So you are a brother from another mother. So we can have some fun with this, but because we're having fun with it, it makes sense. It stands out. You're not just simply
Yes.
another one of those guys and gals that just applies. I've applied for 6,000 jobs in one day. Well, how long did you spend? Come on. If you think about it, if you applied for
Yeah.
100 jobs in one day, it means you spent no more than 10 minutes on each job. Of course, you're not going to get it. You got to spend.
Yeah, you can very easily write up a code for or ask GBT to write you a code for a bug to a pot to basically just apply for you. Even you don't have to be the one physically apply.
And because that's the
So
case, they can't possibly be
yeah,
personalised. I'd love to get Bez in on
exactly.
this. I'm really I'm picking up. I'm going to bring in some of my career counselling buddies.
Right,
You
Zane.
are,
I have a question for Zane.
yeah.
Go ahead.
You
Sure.
you started your journey just yesterday on the Dylan and Pepper show. That
Yes.
resonated with a friend of mine who put you in touch with me, and here you
Oh
are
yes.
now broadcasting to, Keith's got a really decent, deep, and rich community, over 20,000 followers, and he'll
Hmm.
get activity on this replay. You now have 2 social media platforms that are resonating your story, your narrative. You
Hey,
got
I'm
to lean
thankful.
into
I
that
got nothing but
and
love
build
and happiness.
content.
Yeah.
Build content. Actually, a friend of mine told me this. He was like, "You need the TikTok now." I was like, "I don't know."
No, I wouldn't go as far as TikTok. I would take this story that started on the Dylan and Pepper show, and I would take it to the LinkedIn airwaves, because you're sharing your vulnerability, you're sharing your story, and this is what people consume in terms of content. They're going to see the real you, and you're going to get eyes and visibility on your profile. I wouldn't be surprised if in a short period of time your profile doubles in size. You got a small
Yeah.
I
community,
sure
and
hope
it's
so.
not going to be that difficult to double in size in a short period of time.
Let me pick up on this idea. I don't know if you've heard this story. This is a very cool story, and what we need, you can do it on TikTok if you want, but
Mhm.
LinkedIn is where the jobs are, I'm guessing. So you're on LinkedIn now. You might as well leverage this LinkedIn idea. It's also on YouTube,
Mhm.
so I'll send you both of these links.
Yes.
But I want to share this story about a guy who said, "You know what? I'm just going to drink a bottle of blueberry juice in a pickup truck on my way to work." I don't know if you know this story. Right. So this guy put the song "Dreams." I think it's "Dreams" by Fleetwood Mac. I'll Google the exact story in a minute. He puts a selfie stick in one hand and a blue, I think it was cranberry juice in the other, and he was in the back of a pickup truck on the way to work, just for fun. Right. The idea was, look, I don't have a car. The only way I can get to work is to get a lift. Can I please get a car? Right. This is a true story. That video went viral, and the cranberry juice company sent him a year's supply of cranberry juice. And the car company that for that pickup truck sent him a car. True story.
I remember that story.
Remember this story?
Yes.
So, and all he did was, I mean, he had the courage to say, look, I've got to get to work and I don't have a car. So I'm just going to make some fun out of this and I'm just going to do my normal thing. And I'm in effect hitchhiking. Can you give us a break? And, I don't know how he did it, but the point was that millions of people watched that video because he made it fun and it went viral. The company sold more cranberry juice and more people bought that pickup truck. Right? This is how it works now. It's a weird thing. I mean, you see some guy on the pickup truck drinking cranberry juice, you suddenly feel like cranberry juice. The cranberry juice sales went through the roof. The CEO rang him and said, mate, what can I do for you? Have you heard this story, Zane? We
I
lost
just did now.
And it's all courage. It's all sort of thinking out of the box. What's your take on that story, America? While I Google it, it's an amazing story.
So there were a lot of copycats who tried to jump on that bandwagon or similar bandwagons, and I think that was a period of time where UGC really took off. People were just promoting products to the nth degree just to see if there was any virality and if they could optimize and take advantage of what that example had served that particular person.
Now, I've just Googled it. This is, I don't even know if I believe these stats, but it was a TikTok video that had 41 million views. Right? Now, the sale of that brand of cranberry juice went through the roof as a result of a random person having a bit of fun on the way to work. Right? And the company was so inspired, they sent him a year's supply. And it's in the video, like it's clearly labeled. And he got on a pickup truck, and the pickup truck company, I think, sent him a car. And the song was Dreams. And the dream was, I dream of a day when I've got a job. I dream of a day when I can afford a car. Is it too much to ask? Is it too much to ask? And anyway, this went so viral that the drummer from Fleetwood Mac, Mick Fleetwood, I don't know if you heard this sub story, Americo. This is the coolest part. The drummer from Fleetwood Mac did a video on the back of a pickup truck with cranberry juice. And he says, mate, I'm so into this. Here's a guy that's gone viral. Like the song went back in the charts. The song went back in the top 40. I don't know if it went to number one, but the song people went and bought the album in the same way that they're buying the Coldplay album. It just, and maybe today there'll be an upsale of the sale of Black Sabbath records. I'll tell you about that in a minute for those that don't know. But we've got to tap in, and I'm really excited about this, Zane. I want to follow this story, and I know a lot of people. I got 20,000 followers, and 5 million of them live in Toronto, and 27 million Canadians have a LinkedIn page. We'll know someone who knows someone. That's the point. I know someone who will know someone. Yeah.
I really hope so. Yes.
You've had the courage to do it. You need to get your flowers now. This is good. This is very, very cool. Don't you think, America? We actually are a living example of the premise of the day.
Absolutely. And, we started off and we'll continue to talk about storytelling and how this story being shared with us, look how far it reached in such a short period of time. And this happens both positively and negatively. You talked about the cranberry story. There is one dating back to, had to Google it, dating back to 2009, and maybe touching on one of your earlier shows from last week on customer experience. Storytelling, when it comes to a poor experience, if you take your story to the social platforms, they have a tendency of taking off. So be careful as to how you curate your story, because there are eyes and ears and they're listening. So If you're struggling in the job market, and this is advice not just for Zane, but anyone, but if you're struggling, be careful on what narrative you put out, because you can be passed up for something you would have said that perhaps you should have kept to yourself. So storytelling is powerful, but sometimes that power, if not used properly or accurately or with good intentions, can backfire.
Yeah, I think we need to honor the beast. And Steve, who's in, how do you say it, Massagewa? Is that how you say it, Massagewa?
Mississauga.
Mississauga, the home of Rush, arguably my favorite band in the history of the world. He said yes, they were indeed gifted a car from making that video. So they made a video about drinking cranberry juice on the way to work. They wanted a job. They wanted a car. Both happened as a result of just taking a risk. 41 million views on TikTok. So my favorite story is that you've got to do what resonates for you. I don't want to do TikTok videos. I don't want to do them, so they'll suck. I'm not into it. It won't look good. But I love doing audios. So these audio shows are starting to take off, and people are listening to them and watching them and sharing them. And they're getting thousands of replays, thousands. One of my, I'm very excited about, one of my videos or audios has had 15,000 replays. I mean, not a bad thing for a guy in the back of his house. Right? So this is the new paradigm for content. And what I want to pick up on, this is very important, Americo. I want to pick up on this more and more. I have decided today, as a result of several things, that I will no longer base an event around a guest. I'll never, ever go with a guest first strategy ever again, because I've found that the hassle with getting guests to come and promote the show and turn up on time with a decent mic sound is so hard that I've decided I'm just going to run my shows, and guests can come if they want to, but it's a secondary strategy. And we've talked about this many, many times, that user-generated content is the point. If someone comes on your show, I think they owe it to you to help you promote it. Now, I know this is a controversial topic, but I think this is a very controversial topic. But a lot of people think, well, come on, mate, I came on your show. That was my offer. Yeah, that's good. That took up an hour of your time. Good on you. But what did you do before it? What did you do after it? Are you going to come on again? Are you going to share it? Are you going to make a video about it? Did you blog about it? Did you tell your friends? No, I came on your show for 1 hour, one time. That's my offer. Well, it's not enough. Now, I'm just calling it out because we had Amanda on the show, and she's a PR expert. And she said, well, Keith, when people come on your show, they're giving you their content. That is enough. It is not. In 2025, it's not enough to just turn up. So what do you think, Americo? Am I ranting now, or do you think that UGC is something we really need to tap into, and that's really the secret ingredient?
Well, I'm going to sit on the fence on this one. I totally understand and can argue and support both sides. Now, can I do that because of where I find myself in my journey? Probably. Right? I'm building a stage. I'm open to sharing that stage, and I am grateful to get what I can get. If it's just time, great. What I appreciate, what I like, promotion and support that goes beyond the show, I think we all would appreciate it. But I think we got to be realistic and know that a high percentage of those who are guest speaking or podcasting are comfortable just giving us the time and giving us their insight for that amount of time. And that's where we got to just come to the realization that...
No, this is good. This is a softening off. I thought I did think I was ranting a bit. But, I do 2 shows a week and I'm into it. Like, I'm so into it. and I give 100% of my time to this show. Like when I'm here, and it does annoy me that people just sort of turn up in a very flippant way and then just go away. But let's bring Lachelle in on this. She does a lot of content. What do you think? Do you think, am I being a bit sort of unfair? Do you think guests sort of owe it to the host to put a little bit of effort into promoting it if they know very much in advance that they're coming on the show?
Well, I think a lot of guests don't understand the power of collaboration when it comes to a show. And, it really becomes evident when you do have some guests that promote and then you have some that don't. Um, this is something that I feel like I talk about till I'm blue in the face about the power of marketing and how life is busy, I get, but it's like a business. You can't just generate clients and then never have time to get work done. There has to be some, and we have to be very disciplined with that uh, formula in order for us to be successful. And I think a lot of times when it comes to shows, I can only speak for my journey because it was something that I didn't intend doing. But along the way, I really enjoyed it and I get a lot out of a show. And so people have that experience and they're really excited and they have it afterwards. And it's like, man, I wish I had more people who were there at the show, because they just didn't understand that dynamic until they actually experienced it. So, I think I totally agree because I feel like not everybody comes to a show understanding the business of a show, which is the promotion, because it can be that much better. The more people that show up, the more people that engage, the better the show is,
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
And the longer the tail.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If I can jump in on that whole tail piece, there's a good chance and likelihood that Zane 6 months from now will be gainfully employed and someone will reach out to him and say, "Hey, I caught a glimpse of a replay. Keith Keller had you on and you were sharing your story. Are you open to an opportunity?" That will happen.
This is a very unique mindset, but I really do encourage this. I am half of my brain is dedicated, at least half, towards helping others. So I already know there's about 6 people in my pocket that I can pull out and say, "Hey, I reckon here's a great interview for you." So I've got a friend in London who's going to snap this up. Now that might not help Zane because he's not in London, but he might know someone in London. I've got a friend in Dublin who does this. Now, the very, very, very clever marketers know that it's what we call the long tail. I do a show and the show is great today, but it's only great today if it has life after this. So someone will hear this replay in 5 months, 6 months time and go, "I wonder what happened to Zane. Did he get a job? Let's reach out to him." Zane, there's his name. We'll make a very clear point there. Zane Al Zane. That's his name on LinkedIn. Reach out to him. Now, what's going to happen right now, Zane? I want you to take notes on this. My best mate, second best mate, or America, equally good mates. I can't play favourites. Bez knows a lot about this. Now, Bez, I'm going to set the tone for you. You probably don't know what's happened here. I'm going to set the tone for you. What happened is that Americo came on the show and said, guess what? Did you know there was this guy in Alberta that was so frustrated by not having a job that he rang the local radio station and poured his heart out? And I heard that. Let's get him on the show. This is exactly what happened, Bez. You'll just be absolutely shocked by this. So Zane Al Zane comes on the show as a result of Americo in Toronto hearing a radio station in Alberta and telling his friend in Australia, who then tells his friend in Atlanta, who's a headhunter and knows people who knows people. Bears, just jump in and tell me if you can comprehend what I've just said there. Don't you think that's just a miracle?
Wow. So Zane's story is he got affected by the corporate layoffs and stuff like that. Am I correct?
Not really. I'm a student that's been trying to gain experience as much as I can and just get into a corporate job. But no, market is really tough.
Okay. So one thing that you have going for you is that you're a student, and you are in a very unique place because many people were you at one point, and if they can help you, they will help you. But it's just finding the right person to help you. So let me ask a couple questions. If I look on LinkedIn, will I find you there?
100%. Yes.
Okay. So
Same spelling, same name, Zain.
okay, perfect. Tell me what school you're going to and what are you studying and all that good stuff.
So actually, I did go to school already. I went to school. I went to school here locally at NATE for IT business analysis under a program called Digital Media and IT. So my role, for what I went to school for, is I'm the person who interacts with the business and the IT sector in terms of building projects, and then work with the business to understand what the vision is, um, right, create requirements and how to execute them, work with the dev team until those requirements are met or satisfied. That's basically what I do. What I went to school for. What I can actually do. I have. First of all, I'm a people's person. I know that this might be overused because that's what applications are you typically looking for nowadays. Uh, it's one of the skills that kind of highlights your resume. But no, for me, I grew up in 3 different countries. I moved here back in 2018 to Edmonton, Alberta. I lived in a couple countries before that, moving with family. I've had the chance to go to school here. Not like others don't have the chance when they move in their 30s, for example, with a family to pursue an education and compete in an already tough market. But I did have the advantage of going to school here. That's my story. That's me. What I can bring to the table. I'm a very curious person. I think by processing things, how to make things work better. Um, let's tweak this. Let's try this. What's making it not working? And I enjoy technology, so I try to find solutions that could help people improve processes through technology.
Okay.
Zane, I'm going to
So,
jump in if I
go ahead.
can before Bez responds. What you've just shared with us, and this is advice I'm going to give. I know we have a call scheduled, and I'm happy to front load this advice for you. You got to bring that story to LinkedIn. A lot of people think that, bring in your personal narrative and your vulnerabilities and the story. It doesn't have a place in LinkedIn. It so doesn't. LinkedIn has changed exponentially. And if I went to your profile and I read what you just shared, I can assure you, you're going to get increased visibility and you're going to get increased engagement, because what you're going to share, what you shared with us, if you share in short form content, people are going to engage and share, hey, you know what? I moved from country A to country B. I totally understand where you're coming from. Hey, I'm a newcomer to Canada. I went through the same struggles. Here's how I could help you. Just like Baz pointed out, everyone at some point who's further along in their journey was where you are today in some shape or form. And if you share that story, people are going to say, hey, here's what happened to me. Yes, it may have been 10, 15, 20 years ago, but here's how I overcome it. And you're going to pick up things. Some will resonate, some won't resonate. But if you keep that guard up and you keep your story bottled inside, people will not
Yes.
be open to sharing and helping because they don't know. And this is not out of
Yeah,
this isn't
absolutely.
out of desperation. This is purely just the way LinkedIn has evolved. Sorry, Bez.
Mm-hmm.
Let me unmute myself. I'm glad you, Americo, you went to the struggle, but the triumph. You know, like how you were able to overcome. You have to be careful on LinkedIn because there's a fine line in telling a story, and you gotta just be a little bit careful because people sometimes get too vulnerable, and what they do in the process, it becomes a negative narrative, and
Mm.
um, you, and then and sometimes some people take it to the point, and I have friends of mine that have a big following, and they can't get a job, you know, because they've gone so negative, and they put these negative stories, and then they even sort of don't sort of talk about an experience they had interviewing, and that the employer was wrong and they were right, but because they were right, they were the above the below. And sometimes, you know, when we're in this journey, all of us have taken a survival job, right? Where it will never see the light of day on our resume or LinkedIn profile. Um, Sometimes they do because they're relevant, but you're even scared to tell people how much you made when you took that survival job, right? But we have all gone through that struggle. Nowadays it's become a thing to sort of put it out there. Now, LinkedIn has changed. I'm with Americo. I have seen it change, but some of the feedback I'm getting from hiring leaders and recruiters inside of corporate America is like, hey, be careful, because if you get too negative on that narrative, they're not going to touch you. And I have seen good friends of mine that lacked a little bit of awareness in that bucket, and they're still struggling. And so I just want to share a little bit of anecdotal data, because it's you see on the TikToks and stuff where they're recording they're getting laid off and stuff like that, and that's not really cool. But what I wanted to talk to you about is your background, and your LinkedIn profile. Do you have Keith? Do I have a couple minutes?
No, please. I really want to pick up on your skills and talents here. This is perfect.
Okay. So what I gathered from your LinkedIn profile and what you told me is that you want to get a business analyst opportunity. Am I correct?
It was the number one choice for me, or what I wanted to during school. I feel like I'm not constrained to a specific role. I don't look at the role names. I look by what you can actually do in the role, and what I could gain in terms of value and experience, and if it's the right fit in terms of leadership. I look for leadership as a very unique thing, and there's a lot of bad leadership out there now. So what I would really appreciate is somewhere, even if it's a smaller opportunity in terms of money value that it brings me annually. I would rather take that over a big corporate job that I wouldn't be able to gain experience. So a role with a variety of of skills that needed or duties would be an ideal start?
Okay, I'm going to caution you about what you just said, because while it
Okay.
sounds good to you and altruistic, like, hey, this is
Hmm.
what you want to do. I get it. But who
Hmm.
we confuse is the hiring people, the recruiter, the hiring manager, right? Because when I look at
Hmm.
your headline, it says curious problem solver, communicator, always learning and adapting. You're a wonderful person, but what a recruiter or hiring manager looking at your headline uh, doesn't know really what position you want. And a lot of times, you got to let's say you're
I do mention a brief at the end of this. If you look at the bottom paragraph, what I'm looking for, I conclude with that.
yeah, but on your headline you don't. I would be
Okay.
clear what you're looking for. So if somebody's looking scrolling through profiles, so here's a couple things you want to do. Um, I like that you put the open to work where you're open. That's good. Um, and the positions, and you put the ring. Okay. Um,
Hmm.
what you want to do on your headline, since you are looking for a job, right? And
Okay.
that's a
I,
rhetorical
I
question.
do wanna I do wanna like I do wanna explain my kind of maybe background for the only take a few seconds. So
Sure, go ahead.
BAs, the role itself doesn't really it's not really used anymore except for government organizations, the term BA, business analyst itself. So a lot of it has changed into a lot of agile methodologies in terms of specifically my field, and that's why um, I'm not 100% focused in it in just something in IT within my education, because those roles has translated to product owner, project manager, a lot of different names that would not really help me kind of if I just set and I'm looking for a BA role.
Okay. But what we need to do is, I understand what you're saying, because now they're using business intelligence and other things. But
Hmm.
whatever you're seeking, like sounds like you're multifaceted. You're multi, you've gained some skills over the years,
And I'd
and
love
that's
to
a
do
good.
anything with business.
Can
You
I
love
can
to
I
do
jump in
anything.
here, Bez, and ask
Yeah.
this is a very cool question, but and I won't run the room on this. I've often said, in order to stay front of mind, you do indeed have to have a focus. Because if I met someone at a barbecue, say, and they said, "Well, look, I'm pretty good at web design, and I know SEO, and I'm a pretty good writer, and I've written a book, and I can run the 100 meters in 6 seconds, and I'm actually a pretty fabulous cook and a nice husband, and I actually don't mind growing my own veggies." Well, that is just a fantastic conversation. But then someone says, "Oh, look, do you know anyone who grows their own veggies?" Well, yeah, I do, but he also does about six other things, and you're not going to come front of mind, right? But if you said, "You know what, I think I would be so good at dot dot dot," and I mean it's niching, right? This is a very important discussion because a lot of people are against the idea of niching. But if you told me, "Look, I'm really, really, really passionate about writing a book," say, and then you met someone who says, "Do you know anyone who wants to write a book?" Bingo, you come to mind, right? Because you haven't cluttered that conversation with growing your own veggies and being a good cook and having your own podcast and being a good dad and you love the fact that you mow your own lawn and you're got a nice car. What I really want to ask this question, and as it relates to job seekers, Bez, is niching, the idea of going after one specific thing, a good idea, or can you have a couple of feathers in your bow? Well, it's a good question to ask because a lot of us get confused by this.
That's a great question. So, Z- Zane, listen to this.
Hmm.
You have to niche down to one thing. Now, that doesn't mean once you get into an employer, you wow them with your greatness, right? But we have to look at a job search from not your point of view, but from the person seeking you. How do they do that? And you need to make it easy for them. So focus on one thing. Now you may say, "Hey, I want to be a BI, BA," but you look for specific industry, size of company, so on and so forth, right? And then you know that once you get in, hey, we all know leadership is a journey, and there's a lot of bad leaders out there. Okay. Um, but you might have that opportunity. Maybe, you focus on one thing, you get an industry, you focus on a certain size of company, and all of a sudden, you know, stranger things have happened where you get hired, and they actually want you to be the supervisor, the manager. Okay. But from a functional perspective, um, because of where you are in your career, you gotta really niche down. And because there's this phrase that goes, especially this is in marketing, but the job search is a marketing effort and a sales effort. So from the marketing side, you have to be clear on who you are and what problem you solve, right? So if you confuse, you lose. So one of the things I would do right away is I would figure out what I want to do, and I would change your headline from curious problem solving communicator, always learning and advertising, to a different formula. And I would one of the first things I would put, the first words or word, would put the title you are going for. Okay, from a functional perspective, and then since you went to school, maybe there's an area in business analyst. I see on your banner that you have agile. So maybe you take that and put, BI, business analyst, whatever, agile, and you start to put words that communicate very clearly what is your next opportunity, right? And here's what happens a lot is, people come to me and say, I'm not getting any hits. And, they're at a certain point, like, here's an example. I'm a customer success engineer or customer success manager. And I want to go into project management, but I'm getting a bunch of calls for customer success. So when I look at their LinkedIn or their resume, everything says customer success. Nothing says project manager. So it's hard for the algorithm of LinkedIn and LinkedIn Recruiter, which costs $6,500 to $7,500 a seat, to connect the dots and say pull you up in a search, right? So you have to, even if you're not there yet, you need, a customer success manager will have to start using words as a project manager, and they have to convert some words and they have to talk about where they're headed, because then they'll start getting calls based on the language they're using for the position they're going for. Other than that, they would get a bunch of calls for customer success. When we change the narrative and the words we use, then it becomes clear what a hiring manager or recruiter will pick up the phone or send you an email about. Because there's a lot of people that will hire people that have been customer success to project managers all day long because it's a good transition. They know a lot about service delivery and supporting the customer. So they have a different perspective. So and people go back to school, they learn some new skills, such as you, and you have a lot of skills, in some of these places that you've worked, um, you know, uh, even in the trades, which, by the way, the trades are huge. And I'm sure they are in Canada as they are in the United States. But you've made a conscious decision. But here's an angle: maybe to get your foot in the door, you go back to something which is a trade, and you go work for a company that could use your new skills, but not in the trades, but in the position that will help you connect the dots for them, right? So that could be a strategy. There's a lot of ways to skin this cat. I just want to hear a little, what are you thinking? I'm telling you from a recruiter how this works, how systems work to identify you, and what you
Mhm.
need to do in order to get people's attention.
Correct.
What are
Yes.
your thoughts, Zane?
Um, first of all, appreciate your insights, and I do understand your perspective, and I've 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 went through that before, like recently. I've had I tried this method, exactly what we were talking about, asking for specific roles from the period of November until recently in May. I've applied that approach, and the problem that I find with, especially with how I'm getting the word out. So I'm not expecting a recruiter without an idea about who I am to look at my profile, because I'm not applying for those positions online. I'm trying to go in person, and so if a manager or someone ever looks at my profile, yes, they might see that it's not 100% fitting the job, but they would be able to see the experiences, the detailed um, experiences that I have, and what roles did I have, and what skills I could have built in these roles, in such roles. So uh, there is this also the other mindset saying, okay, let's not put our eggs in one basket, and especially for me, as someone who, yes, did go to school recently, a recent graduate, I do have some experience, maybe within my industry and outside my industry, through different roles. What I bring to the table is a lot of um, a lot of experience, but not mastered of something specific. So I I don't want to limit myself, because I don't know, and that's the truth. You can ask a kid what they want to be uh, when they're 10 years old. Is that gonna turn out to be the thing? We were just talking earlier about uh, how people go to school or college, and end up doing something else in their life. I don't want to limit that opportunity, because I can do a lot of things, and as long as I'm able to provide value, which I have some education, I have life experience, and I'm someone who can. You don't need to teach me, and that's another point that we were talking about. The market is already tough, so whatever opportunity in whatever industry um, you might be able to land, at least as for someone starting my career and trying um, the professional field still. I feel there is also the narrative that, okay, let's be open a little bit more, let's reflect that, and try to gain organic attention by actually by doing the crazy ideas, either going on a morning radio show, or going in person for a hiring thing.
I love this discussion. I really want to open it up and keep it moving. Should we niche? We call it niche because there's no T in niche, although we have heard it said the riches are in the niches. Should we niche to get ourselves more employable, or should we stay open to all possibilities? It's a very fundamental question that we all ask every day in business. The riches are in the niches, or if you confuse, you lose. So let's. I'll start with Lachelle. What do you think, Lachelle? This is a fundamental question. Should we niche, or should we go sort of more broad brush? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. We've lost you. What do you think, Americo? I'll just pick it up. What do you think? Should we go broad brush, or should we niche and sort of be a bit more specific?
Well, I would say it depends on what your time horizon is. Um, Speaking from the hiring manager's hat, I've been to job fairs at universities, and everyone's excited that at the end of their 4-year degree, they all think that there's a junior executive position waiting for them. When in reality, there's a entry level position, and how you navigate through the ecosystem will determine how quickly you get to where you want to be. So, if you find yourself early in your journey, you have to be open to eating some humble pie, spending some time in the front lines. And if you're good and you exhibit the skills that leaders are looking for, you will be picked out, groomed, developed, and get to where you want to go relatively quickly. So there are many ways to, as Beth said, to skin this cat. But Beth touched on something that is very important, and it resonates with me, is the fact that when we're job seekers, we have a tendency of forgetting the importance and the correlation to marketing. We are marketing ourselves. We are the product. We are the commodity, and the employers are the ones who are our customers. They're buying us in exchange for a salary or a wage. So it's important to connect the two.
I love this discussion. I want to pick up on this. I want to tell you a really cool story. My wife is possibly the coolest person in the world, but of course I'm very, 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 very biased. So my wife has got 3 degrees, and one of which was in psychology. And she started in a very small junior capacity in the superannuation company, what you might call a pension, similar to what you call 401k. And the boss went on holidays, and they said, "Look, you seem pretty clever. Do you want to have a go at his job?" "Oh, no, I don't want to have a go. I don't want to have that discussion." "No, we'll have the discussion. If you can do the job, we want you to have a go at it." Right. So talking about entry level positions to getting going. And she goes, "Well, look, if you can have the conversation, and if you think that I can do the job, because the boss is pretty hopeless, I'll do it, but you have to tell him, and you have to manage him for that." Right? So the boss goes on holidays, and everyone's sort of universally unhappy with him, but they don't know what to do. Carol steps in for a month, and they go, "Man, that was just so amazing. Do you want to go up a notch?" "Well, hang on. I mean, now you wanted to do this again." She went up 2 levels in 3 months because they saw her. She's very quiet. She's very quiet, but she can do the job. So they said, "Well, look, you made such an impression on us, even though you started at the bottom. You made such an impression on us that we want you to go for the managerial job of the department. Right? Just have a go. Please have a go. We know you can do it. We'll manage the conversation." Right? So what they did, to be fair, is they said to the manager, "Look, this is what we're thinking. We've got a high level plan. Can you plan out the next 12 months, and can you just give us a bit of a sense of where you think the department is going? Because that's your job. You are the manager." And he couldn't. It wasn't his skill set. He was a worker, a soldier ant who just got promoted because there was no one else there. Carol said, "Yeah, I'll have a go at that." She wrote down this A4. "Wow, you, come on, a junior, go." And then suddenly in 3 months, she went from just starting, not straight away, but she's the boss of the department. Now, this is possibly the best story I've ever told, because she went in humble. "I just left school. Come on. I've just done a uni degree. I don't know everything." She went in humble with a place to grow. And within 3 to 6 months, she was managing the department. Now, I'm exaggerating this to tell the story, but she is bloody clever. And this did happen. So I'm just wondering whether sometimes you do need to eat a bit of humble pie, take something a little bit lower than you used to, and but you will grow if you have ambition. And I think this is sort of what you're alluding to, isn't it? Isn't it, America?
Absolutely.
You know, and
You pick
can
up
I
on
add
that.
something to that?
Please,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, I love that story because I feel like, when you're looking for a job, it's important to understand what your strategy is. and you can align yourself with things that go into your strategy for the long run. And so you may, what some people see you starting out as, if you have a vision for something bigger, it could be something bigger. But I think this idea of niching is important for the purpose of people understanding the value you bring to an organization. So if we have, I'll use the example of me being a female. So I am a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a business owner, I'm a daughter, right? I'm a grandmother. All these different things I do. We're just saying that these titles are different things. Um, no one has to, they're not all relevant depending on where I'm at in the moment.
Yep.
And so I think sometimes when we are not clear about our value, we want to try to impress people with all the skills that we have, but then they're not in a position to kind of figure out, just in this good example that you listed with this manager, they don't know how to utilize all the skills, right? Not every person in their position is good or even invested in the position that they're doing. So when we make things more challenging, talking about all these different things we do, it's hard for them to see the value rather than that's just being simple. Hey, you know what? If you need somebody that can keep up with your numbers, I'm the person, right? I think we need to simplify for people to understand because they've got 1,000 things going on in their head.
This is very, very important, and probably the most famous example of this is the Beatles. Paul McCartney can play guitar, but they didn't have a bass player. I don't know if everyone knows this story, but this is what happened. They didn't have a bass player, and they had a gig, and Paul McCartney says, "Yeah, well, I'll just play bass." And he's the bass player in the Beatles, but he can play guitar. Had he have said, "Well, mate, I play guitar, like I'm a guitarist, and that's what I do," and they said, "We really need a bass player." All right, well, I'll just play bass for a few, gigs and see what happens. And then he turns out to be probably the most famous bass player in the history of the world. Wrote 100 songs, and they're all number one. Well, a lot of them. But he had the wisdom to say, "Well, we need a bass player today, and we've got a gig, and I'll just play bass," even though that probably for his skill set was beneath him, depending on what you think about bass players. So you've got to fit into the groove. And then he went to John and said, "Hey, I got a song." "Okay, let me hear that." And then John and Paul wrote a song, and then they wrote another one, and then suddenly they've got like 100 number one songs. So I don't know how many songs they've got, but everyone's heard of the Beatles and everyone's heard of Paul McCartney, right? So he just started where he started, and he worked his way through the system. Now he's knighted, and he's probably got 100 number ones to his name, and more money than he can count. But I think it's a good story. I think it's a good story that you can confuse people. If you confuse, you lose. And I've never heard that before, Bez, but you're onto something here, I think. Why do you think people just overinflate their abilities? Are they scared that they, by niching, they can't get the job they want, or what happens? You, as a recruiter, you would see this all the time.
I think when you're not confident, and a lot of times it's our own selves that get in our own ways, right? And so you start to say a whole lot of nothing, and you start to use big words, and it's unfortunate because if you get called in for an interview, um, the recruiter and hiring manager want you to win. They've set aside time to talk to you. They want you to win. So I want to go back to something Americo and Lachelle said that I thought is very, very important. So time horizon is a factor, Zane, and because everybody's situation is different, And when people ask me for advice, and I say, I don't know. That's a question you need to answer because I don't know your bill situation. I don't know your family situation. I don't know a whole lot of things that we don't plug these variables into our job search because we think they're outside of our job search. But in reality, they're part of the whole picture, right? And sometimes it's a very personal thing. And I don't try to compel them to tell me, right? I just, put the question back on them. And time horizon is one of those things. Like Americo said, is like some people have a long rampway. They can do other things that others can't, right? But that's the question they need to answer. So, but Lachelle mentioned something good here. But Zane, while I'm talking here, I want you to go to your LinkedIn profile because I'm gonna show you something because I'm gonna ask you a question. But you got to be on your LinkedIn profile. Are you able to do that, my friend?
Sure, yes, I'm on it right now.
Okay, and I'm gonna do this with you. I'm going to my LinkedIn profile because I'm gonna walk you through this. Okay, but one thing that
Okay.
Lachelle said that a lot of job searchers don't do is the strategy. Like if you do anything, remember what are we talking about? That we're doing a marketing effort. We're selling ourselves to hiring managers, recruiters. Yet we start there at applying. And I'll tell you this, Zane, I don't teach how to apply. In fact, I have a hashtag called quit applying because in 30 years, I've never gotten a job by applying. So I'm not that person to teach. I can teach you the 100 other 99 ways to get a job, but applying ain't one of them. So, but what Lachelle mentioned about strategy is so important because many of us job searchers don't treat ourselves as the business, as the product, as the whole shebang. We don't pause for a moment and we don't strategize our path and why we're doing it. So why don't you do a business plan on yourself and your job search? Why don't you do a marketing plan? What's your SWOT? We don't do a lot of these things, and that's why when a funky job title comes up, we're chasing it, right? And then it ends up nowhere because we spent a lot of time there. Well, we got to be focused on on the plan. You got to work your plan, but you got to plan. You got to first plan, right? So that resonates so much with me because that's where most job seekers fail because they don't treat themselves as the business or the product, and they're running, but they're not running in a specific direction or with a specific purpose. And we've all heard that story about the 4-minute mile, right? I think Keith, you could tell that story very well, right?
The 4-minute
Nobody ran it until someone ran it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to go to your LinkedIn profile because I want to see how it's performing. So you're in your LinkedIn profile. I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to go to the middle where it says analytics. And then now this is private to you. I can't see it. You can't see mine.
Yeah.
Right around there says private to you, but right in there says show all analytics.
Yeah, I'm on it.
Okay. So let's go. And I haven't been very active the last 30 days, so mine are horrible. So tell me, give me your analytics. I just sort of want to see where we're at with your LinkedIn profile, which is not the complete picture. It's only a slice of your effort, right? But I just want to,
Gotcha.
see where we're at with
I've been way more active than this, but I've been focusing more lately, the past couple months, let's say, for about in person. But I have 86 post impressions, 274 followers, 1.9% in the past 7 days up, 31 profile viewers in the past
90 days.
It
right?
says 90 days. Yeah. 7
So-
search appearances, but those.
So, okay, wait.
Low.
How many search appearances? That's the one I want to know.
7.
Okay, your profile isn't grabbing, my friend, and you're too valuable to this world to not let LinkedIn work for you. So we're gonna have to see. This is LinkedIn ain't working for you, and I can see why. I can sort of see why, but you have to do a few changes, right? I understand LinkedIn isn't the end all be all because you are out there, and I like that a lot of people won't get out from their what I call they don't get their butt out of their seat. I applaud you for getting the butt out of your seat, getting out there, networking, doing the thing, because that actually works. Now, sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but let me tell you the statistics of what's your success rate if you are applying online. The success rate is 0.03%. Not one, like 0.03%. That's not good odds, right? Yet there's thousands and tens of thousands of jobs that get filled, but every year because people apply. But there's hundreds of thousands that don't get filled. Now, I will tell you that certain industries probably works better. You get the positions you can apply and get them online, get an interview and get a job. But then once you start climbing your career, like you're going for business analyst or something in that arena, I don't know yet because you have to decide that. But I'm sort of guessing. A lot of jobs aren't posted, but here we are. You need to start getting the attention of hiring managers and recruiters. But you know what, Zane? I'm not here to beat you up. I'm here to say that, your ceiling is so high that if you start making minor changes, you're going to get some what they call is progress, and they can be from small, medium to large progress, but it's progress, right? And when you add them up, they in this totality, you're going to see things change around. I'm going to invite you. I don't want to hog this whole thing, but in August the 1st, I'm running a 4-week career sprint for free. And I'm doing the flyer right now. I want to invite you to it. It's going to be on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning at 9 a.m. Okay. I want to invite you because I'm going to share some really good things. And I think they will be transformative to you. I mean, they might not be super deep, but because I'm basically that's 13 hours in August, but you're going to get some good insights, and you're going to be around other people that are doing the same thing you're doing, which is looking for a job. So definitely, I just connected with you. I want to help you out, my brother. Okay, I really do.
Thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate it.
I love what we're doing here. Can I just pick up, Bez? Let's pick up on a very key metric that most people probably didn't know about. Why is the amount of times that you pick up on searches so important? How do we check it, and how do we improve it?
Okay, so you go to your own LinkedIn profile. You got to be on your LinkedIn profile, what Zane just did. And you scroll a little bit down, just a little bit, it's like maybe the middle of the profile, and it says analytics, and it says private to you. Like it's only you can see that. I can't see that. And then right there around that area, you're going to see, here, I'll go back here because I'm looking at mine right now because mine aren't so high, but it happens. So when I go there, it says, analytics is right above your about section. So when you're there, it'll say show all analytics. And when you open that, here's what happens. Why is search appearance important? Because the main so LinkedIn made about 18 billion last year in revenue. About 11 billion of that came from LinkedIn recruiters. Now, LinkedIn Recruiter, the product costs $6,500 to $7,500 per seat per year. It is an expensive tool, yet one of the most sought after tools in corporate America and many companies. Now, there's also LinkedIn Recruiter Lite, which is about $130 a month. That's a lot different than paying, $6,000-$7,000 a year for one, right? And so it is a tool of choice. Now, really, really good recruiters will laugh at LinkedIn Recruiter, but for most recruiters, LinkedIn Recruiter is very powerful. Now, what does LinkedIn Recruiter do, and what do we know about what happens behind the scenes? Is that so that many recruiters search by title as one of the key filters right off the bat. So
Okay.
and then they go down. Now here's another thing too that happens. We as creative and awesome individuals, we make up our own title. We call ourselves the ninja business analyst. Well, in LinkedIn Recruiter, like LinkedIn has a database, and it's changing here and there. So you got to sort of sometimes keep up with it. Sometimes your title and things that are tagged to your profile are actually not anymore in LinkedIn's database. So it's something sort of to keep an eye out. So let's say you put you're a ninja business analyst, but but when you search, let's say when you're in LinkedIn and you're updating your profile and you're like, okay, what should I call myself? And you start typing business, and then you'll see business analyst, business intelligent, business special, whatever. There'll be a bunch of different ones, and you need to choose LinkedIn's title, not the nice creative one that you want to come up
Okay.
with.
This is
Okay.
very important. I want to pick up on this. So, many people have asked, well, okay, what's a good number? Mine's 361. I'm just putting it out there, 361. I'm guessing that's in the last month I've appeared in 361 searches for career success radio or jobs, global specialist or whatever. I've got a title that makes sense to me. Never occurred to me to think of it from a search term. 361 people have searched for me in the last week. What's a good number, and how can we improve it?
A good number, then your number will increase as you're more active on LinkedIn. Like mine's 366. That sucks because I have 17,000, 18,000, or around 17,000 followers, connections. And but that shows mine's down. It says, the more active I'm on LinkedIn, the more I'll come up in searches, right? Because LinkedIn honors. Well, there's been quite a bit of change in the LinkedIn algorithm this past 6 months. Usually does minor changes every year, but they've been sort of adapting. It's changed in the last 6 months. So I'm going to talk about that, but in my 4-week career sprint. But one of the things that in last year that LinkedIn honored the algorithm was the relevancy and frequency. So are you talking and posting about things that are relevant to your career? Does it make sense? Because LinkedIn's trying to work really hard to connect you with other people that should be seeing your content. But let's say you're a business analyst and all you're talking about is underwater basket weaving. Well, it's gonna be really hard for LinkedIn to put your stuff in front of the right people, right? That because they're like, oh, business analyst, underwater basket weaving. You're confusing the algorithm. The other thing too is so relevancy is important. Frequency is another one. So let's say you have a cadence of posting or engaging in LinkedIn, because you don't have to post. You can engage on other people's content, and you can leave comments and thoughtful comments. And that's also a strategy. People think, oh, I got to go post, and no. There's people out there. All they do is they grow by, looking at people's posts and responding and putting a thoughtful post. And there's a few hacks on how you respond, and they take advantage of those hacks. So if you have a cadence, maybe you post once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, keep your cadence, because LinkedIn is going to reward that. Now, that was last year. In the first 6 months of this year, that algorithm has changed. and and I've seen some of the testing that's been done out there, and it fascinates me how it has changed. But what is the right number to your question, my friend here? I would say that depends how active you are, um, and how many. I would say I think you should be higher, Keith. I really do. I think there is something with your title that isn't making sense. Did you make up that title, or is that something from the LinkedIn database? Let me see what's his title.
Okay, so Keith is rebooting while we're talking, and Zane may be having difficulties unmuting once again. I'm going to
No, I'm
piggyback.
here.
You're there? Okay,
I'm
go
here.
ahead. I'm going to
Yeah,
piggyback
sorry.
on what Bez mentioned, and add a layer that works for me, and I often share it as my best practice. When you click that appearance in your analytics, it'll take you to another window which breaks down where you're appearing or how you're appearing, and it breaks it down by post, comment, organic search, and network recommendations. So you want to lean in to what's working for you. So if you're active and you're being sought out and your profile views are being generated through comments, then you got a good understanding that could be your golden egg, and you want to prioritize your engagement around comments, because your posts might not be getting the same traction that your comments are. So it's really about understanding how your engagement is working in your favor. Now, I also look at the number, which, seeing how we're being transparent, mine is at 299 for the last 7 days. And I would say 299 for a 9,500 community, or a community of 9,500. If you did the percentages, kind of may fall in line in a decent amount. The point I was trying to get at is, what is the perfect number? There is no perfect number. Bez touches on it. It really depends on, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. The magic number that I have found for myself is to keep a 10-to-1 ratio. And let me explain. For every one comment, for every one post that I put up, I make sure that I engage 10 times. Some would say, you want to engage. Some would say you want to engage prior to posting. Some would say you want to split that engagement so that you're priming up and warming up the algorithm, so you're engaging prior to your post and then subsequently right after your post, and that gets some users and some members additional traction. Now, I haven't tested this hypothesis, but I can share that the 10-to-1 ratio works for me, and it works consistently. So I would agree, the algorithm, the platform, call it what you want, it will reward those who are engaged, but those who are engaged with thoughtful and meaningful content. Basket weaving, you're going to have to give me some advice as to where you found out, because I'd love to learn more about basket weaving.
Can I pick up on this? I just want to pick up on this idea of sharing. We started the conversation. This is a very good segue. I asked America right at the start of the call, how much personal information should we share in regards to telling our story, and how does that help? And how specific should we be, and very deliberate in our strategy? I'm a little bit confused by this, because I personally don't want to tell you everything I'm doing in my personal life, but on LinkedIn I just see so much rubbish that is of no relevance to me and business in general. And I just want to know whether this is a strategy that works, or whether people haven't got the memo. But what do you think, Bez? Can you share too much?
Yeah, okay. I'll say, hey, if you're a therapist and you're in that field, maybe that is okay. See, it's I'll give you an answer like an economist does. Well, it depends, which is a no answer, right? It all is relative, right? But let's say in the business world, let's say, okay, hey, something is fresh in our minds. Can you read my mind and where I'm going? Anybody?
Has it got something to do with the cold one?
Yeah.
A cold play?
What? Yeah. Oh, ding, ding, ding. You get the prize. So let's say you know, I'm a CEO or a chief people officer, and I go to work and I say, well, I'm not even going to tell people. I'm just going to put a post out there about how I got caught on a kiss cam and with the CEO, where the CEO says, "Oh, got caught on a kiss cam with with the chief people officer." Come on now, they wouldn't do that, would they? No. So I think sometimes there's a little bit of overshare, but it's all relative. If you're a therapist or or there's people out there in the business of dealing with trauma, well, that's a little bit a different story. And even then, me being me, I'm like, okay, I'm not really good. That's not my area. And then, that's, some of us, we're like, okay, well, I gotta guard my own vibe, my own whatever, right? And might pass on that type of content. We're going to resonate with some content and some content we're not going to resonate with. And that's okay because it's resonating with somebody else, right? And that's what it's all
Let's run.
about when.
Let's run the room on this. Um, I saw this post from a gorgeous girl that said, "I've got a lamb. I called her Burgini, so I can now say that I have a Lamborghini." Right? Because everyone's posting about having a Lamborghini, and she felt like she was missing out. So I bought a lamb as a pet, and I called her Burgini. Right? So because all of her friends have got Lamborghinis. But I'm just wondering, is it possible to overshare? What do you think, Lachelle? Have you started to notice that the content on it is becoming a bit irrelevant, a little bit sort of trivial, or do you think there's some value there?
Yeah, for me, I'm the type of person that shows up organically, the person that I am. So, depending on what mood I'm in, but one of the things that I'm consistent about is being truthful and vulnerable about my story. So, I think there's a way that we can let people see more of our personality, but explaining why that's so. So for me, I collaborate with a lot of different business owners. I do master classes. I'm an author. I do a lot of things with my kids. There's so many different ways that I show up that I think when you share content, it's your responsibility to help people understand the relevance. It's just like if you go to a play, they set the scene for you so you can follow the story. So I think sometimes, we don't connect the dots, and that's where people can get lost or feel like, why is she even sharing this? So but I think that's our responsibility uh for the people to be able to follow along, because there's this idea that when we do content, that everybody's waiting for this content. Do you know there's 1,000 things that are happening in people's lives, and there's a lot of content that's being thrown out every day. So it's our responsibility to say, okay, let's make sure we're all on the same page, because that's important for people to feel that they can connect with you. So that's my thought on it.
I love it. I love it. You are right. I mean, there is so much content every day. And I'm not sitting here going, hey, I can't wait for the next post by. Oh, guess what? They do a post every Thursday at 10 o'clock. I'm just hanging out. I've only got 3 days to go. Come on. The clock's ticking. No, we don't. We're busy. We're raising families. We're cleaning the house. We're doing a job. We're paying the mortgage. We've got a million things going on, and so everything we do has to vie for that attention. This is a very, very important point, Zane. I'm hoping that this is useful to you. I know it's possibly might appear that it has nothing to do with the job search, but I'm wondering whether or not this has been a sort of a bit of an eye opener as to how you might be able to control your content moving forward. What are you thinking?
Yes, to be honest, before this conversation, I haven't been focused. Having content or generating content has never been my focus. At least in terms of any videos or something like that. So I tell my stories about in post form. Of a few years ago, I've actually like exactly the story that I told you earlier in Americano. Miracle was glad that I shared. I did somewhat of the same thing in a post, and that was it. But it's definitely an eye opener in terms of focusing on engagement and when I'm posting, it's actually like my numbers are way higher. But since I have not been active in terms of um, not posting and commenting on people or not even interacting, I've just been waking up every day trying to go in person and
Yeah, look,
finding a way
it's a
to
good
just like,
strategy. Bez, can I ask you if you've got some stats about which types of content work best? Is it best to write a blog or a piece? Is it better to do a podcast or is it better to do video? What's your take on that as a recruiter and in the world
Um,
of humanity? What's working best?
I would like for Zane to start where he's at with what he feels comfortable with. Like, let's forget about stats, right? Like, he shared his story on a radio. Maybe Zane, you would like to, hey, pop up your phone and say, hey, I'm gonna record a 2-minute segment and I'm gonna throw it up on LinkedIn about my job search. The what I'm gonna do today, and I'll report back in the evening or next day how it went, right? Um, and then you could talk about, hey, whatever, here's what I'm doing to go after this, what I'm going to do for my profile. I mean, I'm not like what Lachelle said to me was resonated. Like, I've known Lachelle since Clubhouse. She sets the stage, America's Supermom. And then she talks about she's consistent wherever she goes. And if she even shares her story, it resonates because she talks about the triumph, right? So it's not a woe me story. It's a, hey, you can do it too, right? Type of story. And people love that type of stuff because we can resonate with that. Like if so there's people going to resonate with Lachelle. Zane, there's going to be people that resonate with your story, right? Because they see themselves in you. And so you may even get the attention of a hiring manager because they go, oh, I went through that. But you want to have a part of your story that has a, some type, what's a good story, right? Think about for you, what's a good story, right? And if I ask my wife that, she loves horror movies, and I don't like them. To me, it's not a story, but some of them have good storylines. But think of what do you enjoy? What kind of stories, right? And you might start approaching how you share your story, right? And so, great question, Keith. I would just say start where it's there's going to be less friction, and you'll do it like without a thought. Like, Keith, I know you don't want to write a 3,000 word blog. I know you don't, but you'd rather do a live, and that live is going to get you traction. And you have some other things every day. You said Sundays or Mondays, you sit down and you pump out 100 specific LinkedIn connection requests. And Keith, I will tell you that you're so targeted and niche that if you were to ask Keith, how many of them connect with you, his numbers are over 80%. Because he's so dialed in who he's see, this is what if you're doing a job search, this is how dialed in you want to be. You want to know who you're going after and why you're going after them and what's your angle. Because if they turn around, like I know somebody who he looked at someone's profile and the guy, the hiring manager had LinkedIn Recruiter Premium and reached out to him and said, I saw you looked at my profile. You have an interesting background. Would you like to talk? I go, well yeah. And he's in an interview process right now.
Let me pick up on the dialed in idea. I really, really, really want to pick up on this. I do it through the idea of stats, but I also do it through the idea of synergy, or what I might call a purple patch. I don't know if you've heard this phrase. It's a creative term when you're so in the flow that time flies. Sometimes oh no, I've got to do the lawn. Oh no, I've got to put all that washing away. Oh no, I've got to do my tax. We've all had that moment. But sometimes in my creative flow, I look up and I go, bloody hell, it's 4:00. I've been doing this since 10:00. I didn't even notice. It actually got dark outside. I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but you're so into it. And because you're so targeted, your mind's so dialed in, as you call it. So, and I start that process with stats. So Americo and I are having this really great research project about email marketing versus what I now call follow back strategy. So on LinkedIn, you can invite 100 people a week on the free plan, and it's completely legitimate and not spam. So I've decided that I spend my Mondays, part of my Mondays, following 100 people. Right? Now, so far since Monday, 42 of them have followed me back. 42 out of 100 in 3 days. 42% ROI on something that might have taken me maybe 1 hour in total. Very targeted, because I know exactly what I'm going after. We can talk about that in a minute if you want. By comparison, I send out an email. Hey guys, we've got another show coming up this week. The Social Audio Sound Check. It's going to be great. 32% of people that are on my list read that email. 32%. Didn't take me very long. Not a very good result. Only 4 people clicked on it. 4. And I did it twice because I've got 2 email addresses. So 2 additional people clicked on that email. Not a very good idea. But I spent an hour of my time targeting people on LinkedIn. There's like 1 billion people, plenty to choose from. I know exactly who I'm going after, and we'll talk about this in a minute if it's relevant. 42% of those followed me back in 3 days. I mean, I'm pretty proud of that, Bez. It's strategy 101, isn't it?
Yeah, I love, see, you know what you're doing, and I encourage everybody to do this. When people ask me, hey, what should I do? I was like, well, here's what I would do, but I'm not the empirical knowledge person, right? I may be wrong. Go test it. Test what I tell you and test your method. And because and come back and share what are your numbers. Do an A/B test. I think people don't do enough testing. And I love that you in America are doing some testing, right? Because you can come up with something that works for you. You might not like email marketing, right? And you may find a better return on your investment with now, let me ask you this. I need some clarification. Are you following or connection request?
No, invitation to connect.
Okay, so yes, okay, connection request, which is a higher, it's a bigger lift. You can follow all day long, but connecting, yeah, you're right, 100 a week on the free version, because I also have the free version. So that, look, when Zane, when we look at statistics, and America was saying, hey, what no, and I was like, we were pontificating about statistics, right? Numbers. But the only statistic that matters is that you get one job offer that you accept and you start. That's one, right? That's the important statistics, right? We can peel back and use ratios, historical, or even start going down the journey of developing your own ratios, because you need to know that the next time you do a job search. So, but the only number that matters is one, right? Forget about the fancy, everyone's, bragging about me. And we even haven't talked about Sales Navigator, but let's just talk about the one thing you need. And what Keith goes around, and Keith, could you share what is your target and what you're trying to do? And America, could you do the same thing? Because I'd love to hear this test you guys are running, because I think that will resonate with many people listening to this, because they may resonate with your method, Keith, and America, they may resonate with your method. So I'd like to hear a little bit about your research and how you guys are approaching it, because I think that information is very valuable.
Well, if I can jump in
Yeah, you
first.
go, mate. I was going to ask you if you could go first.
But before we jump into that, why don't we take a moment and thank Zane for joining us? He probably, when I reached out to him earlier, he probably was expecting to come on for a couple of minutes, share his story, and exit into the sunset. He's now 2 hours into it, and not everyone is aware how great.
I really appreciate the opportunity.
Listen, you're welcome to stay as long as you like, and if you have to leave, it's not my show, and I don't want to commandeer the show. Yes. But listen, I put you on the spot.
I do unfortunately have about 1% left, so I just want to say thank you so much for having me. It means a lot, and hopefully one day I'll get the chance to be able to have a platform and support others.
You will. You will. It's in our blood. So a big round of applause. Wrong button. A big round of applause. I've got the P4 set up too. We can do it in stereo now, man. So a big round of applause for Zane for ringing in very courageously. It's now July 2025. This is a moment in time. A moment in time. We will look back on this and say, okay, look at that. Zane got a job, and we will have a moment in time to reflect on this in 5-10 years. And this is going to be part of Zane's story. He did the work. He went on radio. We just pay. This is part 2. This is part 2.
Yeah, my grandkids, if I end up getting a job out of this, my grandkids are never going to hear the end of it.
Yeah, that's right. So, and this is why, Zane, we need to have that, what we call UGC. You need a line in the sand to say, in July of 2025, I went on this radio show with this guy in Australia, and I had no idea that ... would happen as a result. And guess what happened? Right? You need to track it. I love doing this. So this is a fact. We're here. You came on. You did the work. Something will happen as a result of this, and I want to be part of that story, and I want people to be able to track it and listen back to the show.
Yeah, I will definitely keep you guys updated, and hopefully we'll have some good news here coming soon.
You will succeed.
And now back to our regular programming with America.
Thanks so much.
Strategy for LinkedIn.
All right. So what test would you like to hear? Because we have tests going out periodically.
I would do, look, I mean, shoot, you got more than one test. Lay it on me, brother. I'm learning too. So, I mean, and if Lachelle has a test, let's do this. Lachelle, you jump in. What testing has also worked for you? I want to hear, I want to learn, because LinkedIn is changing, my friends. LinkedIn is changing, and I hear people doing different things that I haven't thought of doing. So please enlighten me, because I'm going to run with this and share it with others.
Well, I think for me, it's all about relationship building. I love having these moments with Keith and America. It was totally organic, and I have to thank you for inviting me into this community because I remember the first time I got on live with you guys, and I feel like I'm right at home, because I geek out on finding ways to improve and do better. I love feedback. I love being able to brainstorm. And so this is really like a happy place for me because no one is taking offense. We're just like trying to learn and we have no problem helping each other. So for me, it's always about the relationships. I don't always have time to test things, but I think you just can't go wrong with connecting to the right people because you will grow based on being able to show up and do what you can to help towards the goal whenever you can.
Real quick, I want to jump in here. So if you're out there telling, okay, I love this relationship thing, um, and you're getting to where Keith and America want to get to with their testing. So let me take one step back. If you're focused on developing the relationships, and I think I figured out one of the things was getting on the, being invited, getting on this show, what was meaningful for you. What are some other things you do that lead to the relationship here on LinkedIn or other social media platforms or other things you do? What are some ideas you can give for job seekers? Like, hey, you want to get to the relationship thing that I'm really good at? Here's what some things you need to do to get there. Can you share that with us?
Yes, I would say yes more than no. So, for example, you have to follow the thread. Okay. So, when you came on the show, and you mentioned me, when people give you a way to connect with the community, then take that opportunity and then show up. I think supporting people, maybe you don't come on the show, but you engage in the chat because maybe it's background noise and you can't talk, or you just simply share the post. I love what Keith said earlier because it takes a lot to run. I think a lot of people don't realize that if you want to have an impact. Now you can have a show and, maybe one day 50 people watch, the next day, 70, and it's not really consistent. But if you really want to go deeper, it takes a lot of work. It takes figuring out how can I repurpose this? What clip should I promote? If people don't have time to watch the full show, you're busy with so many different dynamics. Anytime that you can get people in your community that understand the value of that, the easier it is because someone can repurpose, somebody can repost, somebody can comment, somebody can, shout somebody out and have them come on stage, right? I think it's all about co creation. And a lot of people want to ride the coattails of people. And it's the little things that you could do, right? If you're in the audience and you're not on stage, you could give Keith a recommendation, you for right, or giving him an endorsement. There's so much social currency that we have that doesn't cost us anything that can really help somebody else continue to soar on the path that they're on.
I love what you've said there because Americo has a show on a Friday, Friday my time, Thursday for him, and wifey works from home. And the challenges with our internet are bad enough, talking about being dialed in, but when wifey works from home, my internet, our internet really suffers. So what I've done with when Americo's doing his show is I'm in the background commenting, or I'm sending the link to other people that I think may enjoy it, and he does a replay. So if they can't come, they do that. So you've got to support your allies, right? So I can't always go on Americo's show, but I'm working in the background, and I think that is another piece of the pie that a lot of people don't know about. We try and do everything ourselves. We just try and do everything ourselves, and by splitting up the tasks, we create miracles, don't we? 1 + 1 = 3.
One 1 + 1 = 7.
It's so true because we have I think our record is that we've had 15 pieces of content come out of one show because hopefully Zane will take the initiative and create some content here. He's got a great story to share. I know 12 months down the track, we'll be looking back on this show. This is what I love about this format. We'll be looking back on this show going, we were part of that. We inspired him to do this. And that wouldn't have happened if he didn't come on. But we also gave him a bit of a nudge. And we sort of, in a way, were part of that. And that's the community spirit, isn't it? We're all helping. There's no ego. We're all just helping each other because we know a piece of the pie. We know someone who knows someone. Yeah.
And I think also doing things in real time. That's a real issue. I mean, it just goes back to, you guys have a relationship that you're just having a conversation. So much so that it's impacting other areas of our life. And I think that's the key. You don't want people to just, I know for me, I don't want them to just think about my brand when they need media. I want them to think about me when, they're thinking about going on a vacation, or I want them to hear my voice in their head about something that I've said. So I think we want to be memorable. And so when you're able to tie in life with business, that's when you really make a connection with people, to where, they feel like, that know, like, trust has already their level.
Well, I love this. I just love this because next week we're so into this that Merico and I are doing a whole show about this, like a whole show about how do you create connections and therefore clients by using this format, the Anchor Day series. Mate, tell us about that show. It's going to be a ball terror, isn't it? It's really, really going to be a game changing. This is really where we're heading with this, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm going to piggyback and answer part of Bez's question in terms of testing, and we'll probably go into a deeper dive in terms of those tests and the quantifiable data that is associated with that. But just the sheer strength of and power of what we're doing and our ability, perhaps let me retract that, not ability, our willingness to test what others might be afraid to test, and then sharing that in our story and helping others connect. Here's something that we've tested. Here's something that we've culminated and have proven that it works. And I'm so excited for that conversation because it's going to bring all our quantifiable data that we've been piecing together, and we get to share that with our community in hopes that people might reach out and say, hey, I gave what you shared, I gave it a try and it worked. Thank you so much. And we started the show with that premise, right? The premise was storytelling.
Did. Yeah.
And along with storytelling, you had a guest speaker who was unable to attend. You weren't really scrambling. You had a backup plan and a conversation, and it just the doors just opened. And I bet you haven't had the need to visit that backup plan because everything just happened organically. This LinkedIn effect.
I mean, if you're watching the replay, you do need to get through the first 3 minutes where I was fumbling around. But the thing is that because this is very important, because we've got a community. This is exactly what our shows are always about. Because we have a community, I had a bit of a team I could call on. Hey, guess what? Person didn't show up today. You got half an hour? You want to just jump in? Can you help me out? And so I just sort of rallied the troops, and we came up with a bit of a strategy on the fly. Now, this is exactly what we're talking about. We're telling our story. We're real. We're authentic. We're a little bit vulnerable. I was a bit embarrassed that my guest pulled out at the last minute, and I've got to wear that. And so I did. And I think this show is possibly stronger than it would have been because I lent into it. Right. And but to be fair, I've been doing this a long time, and I've gathered a community of people that says, "Well, mate, you're a bit of a dude. I'm happy to help. I got nothing going." And this is all very impromptu today, so don't ever take this for granted. Like, this is people helping out because they had the spare time. This is not planned, and that's the power of community. Lachelle, you of all people would know what I'm talking about here exactly, wouldn't you? We have a wonderful community, don't we?
Absolutely. And I think, focus on, active listening, I think, to engage, because so often people, try to, if you think about a live event, you can get so caught up in the routine that you miss the opportunity to connect, to find out what is it that they have as a goal. And one thing that I say that makes it so much easier to show up in your platform is that you're intentional, right? You know exactly what it is you're working towards, and people come on already clear about that. So I think I'm back to the strategy piece, understanding that it is very um very much achievable to accomplish your goals when you're working smarter and not harder. And so when you listen to people, you can hear if their vision is in alignment with what
Bingo.
you're doing. And if it is, it's no problem showing
Bingo.
up.
And what I said, and I've decided today, that I will never, ever again base a show around a guest. You heard it live here today on LinkedIn. I will never, ever base a show 100% on someone else. And I learnt that lesson today. What I'll do from now on, I'm very proud of this, is I'm going to plan my shows, and I have done this. I have got shows every Tuesday and every Wednesday until the end of September. And if guests want to come in on my show, I'll pick a show that is already running that I can run if they don't come on my own. And they'll add value to that, and it'll be great for them, and it'll be great for me. But if they don't come, I won't die, right? Because 10 minutes to go. I'm sorry, I'm not coming. It's a bit of a stretch, right? So I'm good at it. I can do it, but it's not pleasant. So from now on, I've got a show every Tuesday and every Wednesday until the end of September, and that is my way of dealing with the uncertainty of whether anyone will come. I'm pretty proud of this. I'm pretty proud of this because my strategy, my goal, and I'd love you to help me with this, is that I want to be the guy that tests stuff. Right now, up until now, I've been buying that stuff myself. So I'm obviously limited by the amount of stuff I can buy that I get through the Bursa. Can I buy another mic, honey? Well, you've got 2 mics, honey. What do you need another one for? Well, I just want to test it on the show. Well, it's not really adding any value to us. It's a good conversation. I mean, it's a fair conversation. So I've decided I'm going to go after companies that say, look, you got a new mic range coming out. Why don't you send me a couple? I'll demonstrate it on the show and send them back, and you get all the kudos for my listeners getting that, and I get a bit of a fun show to have. Right? You can come on the show and demonstrate it if you don't want to send it to me because you don't want to pay the freight. But I'm just going to go after it. And this week, I'm very proud to say, I went and bought the URL Audio Unboxing, talking about telling my story. I now want to be the guy that you go to when you want to hear things. What's the difference between an SM58 and a Beta 58A? Right? They are different mics. They look different. They sound different. How do they differ, Keith? I can't decide. I want to be that guy that you ask that question. Now, I can't answer the question unless I've tried them. So I went and bought the URL audiounboxing.com. And if you type that in, it just simply leads back to my LinkedIn account for now. But I will build out a whole strategy around this because I've decided, as you said, Lachelle, I'm very intentional. I know exactly what I want. I want Shaw or Rode or Zoom or Tascam to ring me and say, mate, we got a new product coming out. Can I send you one? And can you test it on the show and give me the goss and give it away or send it back, or you can keep it? That's what I want. It's a sort of bizarre goal, but that's what I want. Now that you know, if you know anyone who works for Shaw or Rode or Tascam or Zoom or Elgato or any of these brands that sell this stuff, send them to me because I want to help them. And because of that, people will rally around that goal. So if you're bumping into someone on the weekend, they go, oh, guess what? I just started work for this brand new microphone company. I'm so excited. Do you know anyone who needs a microphone? Well, yes, I do. And is that what you're sort of talking about there, Lachelle? Is a bit of a deeper dive on that. But the idea of being intentional means that you know exactly what you're doing and people know exactly what to expect, don't they?
Absolutely. And, it helps them to be focused on the help that they give, because a lot of people shut down and they think, well, maybe I only have 500 connections, so I really wouldn't be of value, because somebody else on the show has 5,000, right? But when you understand what someone's objective is, it's not about the numbers of who you are. It's about, using your influence to align with their vision and helping them on the journey. So there's so many different ways that we can help people. And again, being caught up in ourselves is the problem. When we begin to get beyond ourselves and think about how we can help others, that's when it really helps us in the process also.
Yeah. And we each have a passion. Next week, actually, in 2 weeks, I'm talking about Ikigai. Have you heard of Ikigai, Lachelle?
Yeah, you've explained that to me. Yeah.
So when you know what you are, if you know your skill, there's 8 billion people in the world. Someone needs what you have. Someone needs what you have. If you try to be everything for all people, you sort of dissolve your power, right? But if you say, you know what, I'm going to be the best audio dude in the world. I can't cook and I hate mowing the lawn and I can't fix cars. Don't ask me to do that. But if you want to know what mic to buy, I will know. Now that's a skill, a very unique, very niche skill. But I'm going to be the best in the world at that. I'm just going to be that guy. Right. So we're going to talk about Ikigai in 2 weeks, this idea of narrowing down what you really, really, really want to do with your life and getting really good at it. Mate, we're on a bit of a ramble, but we've covered a lot of ground. You've been with me on this journey, and I am sort of becoming that guy, aren't I? America?
Yeah. Yes.
So
Absolutely. You are that guy, and you are, to many of us, that mentor that sets the bar and sets the stage to what is acceptable and what perhaps might not be acceptable. What is a good tolerance for questionable audio? And I've learned so much in such a short period of time. I now respectfully avoid, although, with good intentions, I thought I was joining conversations, but the impact that I was making on that particular show was less than admirable because of poor sound quality. And I learned that because of you. And I was totally oblivious to it. And now, you mentioned Ikigai. You mentioned our show next week, and listen, I too was at that point where I thought I could be all things to all people, and there's so many things that I'm passionate about and wanting to help, but the more and more I do these shows, I realize that while customer experience is important and valuable and something that I'm really passionate about, I now have an opportunity to lean into two passions and help others deliver an excellent experience with virtual events. This is part of
I want to pick
this
up on
is
this.
part of this is part of the customer journey. We got over 1 billion members here on this platform and others like it. Your customers are here. Why are we not showing up for them? And there's no better place to do it than through a virtual event, whether it's audio, whether it's on camera, whether it's, a masterclass. Events bring bring trust, accelerates trust, in fact, more so than written content does. And the one thing that virtual events do that written content doesn't do, you're no longer sounding like the AI generated content that we're seeing. Everyone is leaning into AI, and I'm not here to bash AI. I use it, I leverage it. I'll be the first to admit it, but I use it in such a way where I know its limitations, where it's going to make me feel synthetic, where these events, this is authentic. This is me. I might stumble. I might hit a button. I might pause, but you're getting the real me.
I love this. I love this discussion because there is a tendency in some people I know to try and do all things for all people, and we're leaning into AI because it gets it done really fast, but it's a bit vanilla, it's a bit bland, it's a bit impersonal. So by being the best you can be at a certain thing, I think I believe you give yourself much more power. And let's hope Zane picks up that, because we heard on the call that he wanted to be a little bit neutral because he wanted to keep his options open, and that is a common strategy. But what often happens when you keep yourself neutral is you don't appeal to actually anyone.
It's
Anyone can,
deadly.
yeah.
It's deadly.
Would you agree with that, Bez? We've lost your
Yes,
picture, but you would agree that we need to be very intentional.
absolutely. Am I?
And
Am
this is
I?
a
Am
voice
I?
from the deep. A voice from
Yeah,
the deep. I think he's
I don't know what happened, but here, let me.
there.
Okay,
You
there we
are.
go. Um, I I was sensing that in the beginning, and my natural reaction was, "Dude, I'm gonna wring your neck right now, okay? I'm wrong. I'm right. You're wrong. Let's just." But I held back, because I was like, sometimes you need to hug people, right? And I think that's where he was at, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And sometimes you think you know, and you really don't. Because you haven't made the mistake, or you're in middle of the mistake but you can't see it, right? So I that happened to me early in my career in 1992 when, after university, I went into headhunting, and it was 100% commission. And that first year, I'll tell you what, nobody was going to out hustle me. I got to the office early. I was the last one to leave. I would take work home. I came in prepared, as a headhunter, and I had to go get the business, and then I also had to go fill the business or get my teammates to help me fill my jobs. And I had this altruistic that I wanted to save the environment, and I was trying to get into environmental engineering was sort of a thing back then. You know, but anyways, and then I started dabbling in this and that and IT, environmental engineering, and civil, and it's like I was trying to be everything to everybody. And my boss was so gracious. She was the most wonderful. To this day, I still talk to her. She was one of the most impactful people in my career ever. She had so much grace to give me to. I always felt like I was just barely, if I was barely surviving, but I was surviving, But I think she saw the hustle, she saw the grit, and but I came to the self-realization at the end of the year, after being there a year, that there must be easier ways to make money than this, because I was paying my rent late, just things, like you're not really going anywhere, and you feel like it's pretty heavy. So, what I did, and I was into self-development, Tony Robbins, all those things back in the day, and there's some great people out there. I listened to them on tape, this cassette tape. I'm aging myself. The Nightingale, of course. What he has, Steve. Oh, so many great people. But I started to. What I did is I first interviewed the people in my company that were big billers. And then I got into some meetups. We didn't have social media, internet, but word gets out of recruiters, successful recruiters somewhere in Irvine, California. We all met in a room and we talked and got to know each other. And then I interviewed some other people too. And as I started interviewing the big billers, they weren't much different than me, other than they only did one thing different. And that is they only focused on one niche. They weren't everything to everybody. They dialed in on one niche, and they were masters of the niche. They were such masters of it, the industry knew them. They would get people calling in, like clients would call them because they knew who they were and say, "Hey, I've got a job you need to fill."
Yeah.
Candidates would call them because say, "Hey, I hear if you're the person, the recruiter I need to talk to if I want to, get a job in here." Okay. And so I was like, wow. And these were big billers. One person I met was billing $800,000 in 1993-ish. Now that's in today's money more than $1 million, right? And he was focusing on the printing industry. And I was like, oh man, the printing industry's dead, but he's making $800,000. What the heck? He was focused. He did stuff that to this day I won't do, but nobody else did, but he did. And that's a whole different conversation. But to the point, when I did that, when I had that aha moment, and I said, okay, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna niche down. It's gonna be
Did we lose Bez, or was that me? Can you hear him? Did we lose him?
at competing cellular companies in my region.
Can't hear him.
Hello?
I can't hear him either. I can't hear him.
I think we lost you there, Bez. I'm not really quite sure what I've been inspired. This is very, very important. Like, I am so
Hello?
into niche. We got you there.
Hello?
We got you back. You're back. Okay, so
I don't know what happened. Okay, I'll finish the story real quick. What I did is I ended up niching down, and by the end of the year, I was president's circle of winners. Let me see if I can find that. Yeah, second year 2, the end of year 2, I was on my way to Vegas, right? And I was number 4 nationwide. Now, one of the guys that I had interviewed, who was I was in the city of Orange office, he was in Irvine, so he was a stone throws away from me. You might know him. His name is Dave Martin, because he went and got on a food show, and he was the guy always crying. What? Anyways, he came up with a slogan, but he's still, you see him on social media, and him and I are still keep in touch. But he beat me by $20, so he was number 3. When we were in Vegas, he came up to me and goes, "Baz, I should have smoked you. You're really number 3." Very gracious. I was like, it's just numbers. We're all doing good. But it was people like him that showed me the way. And Keith, I'm going to tell you something to your credit, that there have been many people that have come into your spaces that have gone on to be wildly successful, but they came in as timid as a lamb. And I'm looking at her profile right now. Do you remember Martha?
Martha, yeah, Martha's a very great. Tell that story because we
No,
remember.
I want you to tell that story because I think it sounds better coming from you.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a very good example of telling your story. So Martha, who is a good friend of ours now, came in about a year ago and said, "Oh, look, I've got a gig tomorrow and I'm really, really nervous. Can we just sort of huddle together and can you give me a few ideas? Because I'm so nervous. Like I'd never done this before." Right. And you should have seen us. I mean, there was just this cloud of positivity around us and we huddled together and we got really super zoned in. And for about an hour, not dissimilar to what we did with Zane, in an hour time, we just really poured everything into her. Right. And she did the gig the next day and she liked it and she was quite good. And she came back the next week and she was very thankful. And as a result, I think she started her own NGO and she's got quite a good story to tell. But do you know the sort of end game there? What happened from there?
Well, what happened is she came back in about a month or 2 or 3 months, and she had her own show.
Wow.
She was holding her own court, right? But what was so ironic is when she came into the room, she was saying, "Hey, I'm being like interviewed tomorrow," and I'm so like exactly what Keith said, and we just poured into her and uplifted her. You know, a very safe space of we were giving to her, and we really poured into her. Yeah, she came like 2 or 3 months later and she was hosting her own shows. You would not have known the person that walked in
Oh,
there
totally
who
different.
was timid and scared. But yeah, she came back and thanked. I think a month later, another thank you. She came in, but oh my goodness.
And she started her own NGO. Like she's
Yeah, her own
engaged.
nonprofit. Yeah.
She's
She works with
engaged.
homeless people. Homeless.
She and so from her confidence, this is very, very important. From her confidence, she was able to access her power, and people got homes. People got food to eat. People were able to feed their children as a result of this sort of angel who herself felt very timid. And so our role in that is that we poured into her. She was built up slightly, and then from her own kudos, she then formed a not-for-profit to feed the homeless of Houston. I think it's Houston, and she's a very powerful player there now. But she didn't think she was, and she didn't think was capable. That's the power of community, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
You know, she was on my show also. You talking about Martha
Yeah.
Lobos?
Yes.
Yeah, she was on my show too. And we actually ended up being co-hosts with each other on the Social Saturday
Wow.
chat. But yeah, it is amazing how, you know, the momentum that can happen when you get started being around the right people that encourage you to keep moving.
Yeah.
So that's a great example. So yeah, I know
And this is
exactly what
this
you're
is
talking
our
about.
role. Like I was chatting to someone yesterday and they said, "Oh, what do you do?" I said, "Well, I'm retired now, but I've been doing this for 40 years. So I want to just share what I've learned." Oh, what a lovely thought. And I've got plenty of energy left, but I just don't want to work. I don't want to have a job. I don't want a job. I want to just be able to do this all day for fun. So I've learnt a few things around the block, and I like sharing those. And as an example, yesterday, Americo bought built a P4 and an SM58. Sounds $1 million, and he bought that with the confidence that comes from being on our show, and that was a glorious moment, wasn't it? Like you had the confidence to buy it. We helped you put it together. You sound $1 million. You'll now take that another step forward. You'll be running your own shows, and more importantly, you're thinking very seriously of moving out into the field. How's that idea progressing?
Well, the idea is still in its infancy stages, but definitely it is now opened up doors. And the P4, its versatility and its portability has me thinking, hey, there are different variations of events that I can create, produce, moderate virtually. But there are going to be businesses who might think, hey, you know what? I think there's value in us doing this in person. I think there's value in you maybe coming down, spending some time with the team and sitting down with each of them, and we can build something, a story around our culture here at the office. Are you open to coming down? It's like, absolutely. I now have the tools. I have to buy an additional mic, an additional stand, and XLR cable, but the opportunity is there. And circling back to niching, it's still tied to curating events, producing events, and delivering a good experience while doing it.
What I love about this is that we're picking up on our skill. Like, if we know for sure that storytelling is a very good way to market your business, there's people in the world that say, well, I don't have a P4. I'm going to buy a mic. But Americo, who lives up the road, can come to me and do it. People pay for that convenience. Like, I want to share this very, very cool story in this exact context. In Melbourne, you can go to a studio which is fully fitted out with the latest mics and the latest mixers, and someone will record and do it all for you for $200 an hour. Right? It's a service they offer. There's probably one in every suburb now. But for $200, you can buy your own P4. Now, I know which one I'd prefer. I like doing it. So I'm going to buy the tech and do it. But other people say, you know what? I just don't want to learn this. I don't want to have to bother with this. Can you come to me? I'm happy to pay your fee. We're going all right. And so it's $200 an hour or $1,000 a day to turn up to a fully equipped studio in the city that's purpose built for this. You don't have to do anything except turn up and pay them. Now, this is a service that people will pay for, America. I know it because they're doing it here. And you've got the gadgets now. And don't you think that's pretty exciting?
I'm stoked. I got to tell you, there's always ideas swimming in my head, but this one kind of just fits really nicely with what I'm doing in the virtual space. And I can't wait to get that first DM or email or phone call say, hey, I hear you're available on site. Let's talk.
Yeah, I think we pay for convenience. I'm a creator. Like, I create. I wouldn't pay someone to do it for me because I want to do it. But not everyone wants to do it. Like, I mean, we all know that experience of going to a restaurant and thinking, hang on, they just made the most amazing meal. And guess what? They do the dishes. And it only cost me $100. I had a night out. I had a glass of wine. I had a nice meal. I had a really lovely chat with my wife and some friends. And it cost me $100 per couple. And they do the dishes. I'm happy. I'll do that every night of the week. I've got to be honest. I do that every night of the week. My wife's a very, very good cook. And she says, well, we don't want to go out every night. But once a week's good. So it's the same sort of thing. People will pay for a service. And now what we're doing is we're tapping into the idea that these formats, we know because we're researching them, these formats are working. People love stories. And if you can go to someone's office and record their story for them and create a really lovely podcast for them, they will pay you. They will, because it's a very valuable service. What do you think, Bez? Are we onto something here? Do you imagine there'd be businesses that would pay to have their story told professionally if they couldn't do it themselves?
Absolutely. I know they would. You need to bring in Billy.
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 I
What
forgot
can
his
I read?
name too.
Yeah.
Billy. Yep, I know. I
Yeah,
know who.
from Clubhouse. Billy
Billy
from
Thorpe.
Club.
Billy
Yeah.
Thorpe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in his group. And he, oh my goodness, this guy's done like 4,000 brand deals. He's got a story or two to tell about that. But a lot of people won't put in the grind like he will. That's why he can talk his talk, because he knows, right? He knows what it takes, and he knows what's going on in corporate America, that big business is actually looking for these small influencers, right? That can
Yep.
move the needle. Not so much the big ones anymore, but specific engaged audience. You can have 500 people and you're attractive. You're not playing the CPM games, but you're still signing deals that are substantial. You're just throwing CPM out the window, but taking that down to Main Street, America. I mean, I love where you're going with that, because there is opportunity out there. I think we talked yesterday about Chocolate Johnny, right? But how many other businesses out there would benefit of you going out there and sharing their story, or doing a live stream and selling their products there on live, right? I mean, that's a heavier lift. You got to have systems on the back end, but you're opening up the eyes to people that they thought, oh, my story, I can't get it out there, or I don't know how to get it out there. I'm I think you're going to find a demand. It's trying to figure out where you fit in the marketplace, and based on what you provide, or how you're going to package it, what you're going to charge, based on what you feel your value is. And I think you'll figure it out. I know you'll do well. It'll be that process, but there is space for what you're doing, because that trend is out there.
Oh, the
Um,
trend is definitely out there. And
yeah.
a couple of weeks ago, and I know it's kind of parked, but it's still in my wheelhouse. I talk about events, and I started thinking, hey, during the pandemic, we used to host virtual job fairs, and here's a perfect opportunity to create an event where you bring candidates, you bring hiring managers, you bring recruiters, and you talk about and you spotlight an organization. Here's what our culture is like. Here's our story. And we have opportunities. And based on the engagement that you get from the audience who shows up, if you push it out to job seekers, you're engaging in a conversation, and you're able to, in a relatively quick manner, know, hey, this is a name you want to look out for. Here's a resume. If this resume comes across the table, we're going to want to talk to this candidate, because they articulate themselves really well, and it's another opportunity to separate yourself from the AI generated resume. So
Oh,
I think there's a
absolutely.
platform for that. It wasn't mastered to perfection during the pandemic because everyone was scrambling. But if you create an environment, and I understand there's regulatory um, stipulations that you got to stay away, you got to watch what you're saying. But if you're just connecting it to storytelling and talking about the company's culture and seeing who shows up and seeing how engaged people are with the questions that they're asking, you can then create breakout rooms. You can make it a Zoom environment, and in those breakout rooms, it could be, just shoot the breeze. Hey, we got opportunities. Are you interested? Really like what you were saying. Really liked how you were articulating and asking the questions in at the event. Would you like to talk? Would you like to sit down? Would you like to explore opportunities with us? I think there's a market for that as well.
America, when LinkedIn Audio, I used to run, because we used to do it on Clubhouse all the time. And the room you're talking about actually got 200 hires during the pandemic. But they would go for hours at a time. Um, so I did them on LinkedIn Audio until they sunsetted it, but I would run them through November and December, and a follow up in January. Because most people say, "Oh, everything's slowing down," but I said, "No, no, 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 no. Actually, a lot of hiring happens in December. You just don't know it." And so, and there was people would show up for those. Now, where you're going with this is exactly where I see the opportunity is package branded rooms, like for one company. Like say, hey, you can pay me my full fee, or maybe you don't want to use me for this, but you would use me at a different price point for a branded room over 3-month period, and we do so many of these events per month, and we come up to with a price. I think that's an opportunity there because you remove the friction, right? People come in, they're able to articulate, and if you start curating an audience, right? That's why I would say lock them down for 3 months, because it's going to take some time to get that, the right people coming in, but one hire and you've won, or you're even with my price point. Two hires, you definitely winning, right? But I believe, just like you do, there's an opportunity there. I've started to work on it. In fact, I actually have a room, because I can do this on Zoom, obviously with the breakout rooms.
Mhm.
But I took it to Go Brunch, because I created my own breakout rooms, and I can brand those aesthetically to a brand if I needed to, right?
Great.
So just wanted to share that. I think you're onto something, Americo, because it is a thing. You can do it. You can make money with it.
Awesome. You and I should take this conversation offline. I know we started the conversation, but let's continue it. I know there's
Sure.
multiple and shifting priorities.
Well, it does pick up on what we were saying what we'll talk about next week, and that is that we are going to do a whole show about how you can use LinkedIn live events to do to build connections, which will ultimately lead to having clients, because that's the piece of the puzzle that we share. But now that you've got that tech, you have the ability to go to them. Now that is a premium service that some people will pay for, because a lot of people get this. A lot of people get the power of the in-person experience, and we're talking about this next week. So how do you think the LinkedIn live audio events fits into your sort of strategy for going to them? Are you going to offer either or going to offer both ideas now?
Well, it's the whole good, better, best type of proposition, and it's really taking me one step further in terms of customizing and tailoring an offering around events, right? So we started with virtual events. We now have the capability and the appetite and willingness to move the event on site or off site, and it just becomes part of the value and the offering. Here's the menu. You can now pick a la carte, virtual, on site.
Yeah, it becomes part of what we might call a funnel.
Absolutely. You hear me saying it all the time. It's like each and every one of these episodes becomes a funnel in its own term and sense.
I love this idea, because our friend Jane Jackson, who's a very good friend of mine, she has a very good funnel. She has a podcast, and Bez has been on that podcast, and that podcast is free, and that introduces you to her. And then she has a monthly group that I think has 10 people in it, and they pay, I think, $100 a month, whatever it is, $100. And then she has an hourly fee if you want to go one-on-one, which is obviously more than the group call, because she's only focusing on you, right? And now what she's introduced is the fourth level of the funnel, and that what she calls VIP days, where she'll come to you and hang out all day. Like, she's just going to spend the whole day getting your resume right and your LinkedIn. Like, you got to have to be really keen on that. And there's only one of her and there's only one of you, and you're very, very, very targeted. So she's got 4 levels: free podcast, group calls, individual calls, VIP days. Now you're starting to develop this funnel. LinkedIn live events will come to you for a fee. You know, you're starting to develop that sort of flow, aren't you?
Absolutely.
And it's bloody good because not everyone wants to create. People want to consume content, but not everyone wants to create it. We are, I think, I don't know who said this, but I think it's only 4%. I'll Google this right now, but only 4% of people that are on LinkedIn create content. Like, we are in the minority because it's hard and it's time consuming.
4%. I actually think that's really high. That percent. Are you sure that that's the amount of people that produce content on LinkedIn? I think
I've heard
LinkedIn has some.
1%. I've heard 2%, but I've never heard anything as high as 4%.
Yeah,
Until
I
now.
think LinkedIn has some data on that. In fact, I may have it here at my fingertips. Let me see if I can find it. By the way, Martha, her last post, just before I look at this, about 12 hours ago. This is this is really interesting. The last sentence or the last thing she makes on her post, at the end of her post, she goes, "Be bold, make that call." Remember when she came into our room? That she has really blossomed into a pretty amazing individual in what she does with the homeless population. I'm just reading her last couple of posts, and they're just, you know, tear jerkers, heartwarming.
Yeah. It is a great
Yeah.
story, isn't it?
You should
it's a great,
you should bring her back.
yeah. Okay. Well, let's do that. Let's,
So it's something to think about. You got
I
a
know,
whole bunch of shows planned.
but I think we're onto something here. You've sent me her details. I will reach out. We're good friends. She's doing her own thing, and she's got a busy life. But I'm very happy to, in the same way that I'm very happy if Zane in 12 months' time comes back with a massive story. We've been part of that story. I just really want to be part of that story. So yeah, Martha's got over 5,000 followers now, and she's really doing it.
Oh, you know what happened too? I introduced her to the district governor on a club. So we run a clubhouse room once a week, Saturday mornings, and it's a Rotary room. And ever since the pandemic, it's so what a district governor in Texas happened to be there, and she's actually part of our mod squad now. And she on stage when Martha was sharing her story, like she's the district governor for her district. That's a pretty significant position, right? You don't get paid, but you have a lot of influence. She said, "Martha, tonight I'm going to a gala. I got a ticket for you. Can you get a dress and meet me there? Because there's a ticket with your name, and I'm going to introduce you to some amazing people." And I think you were in the room when she was telling us the story that she didn't, she was in the room sitting and talking with people that were VPs, CEOs of hospitals, and was conversing with them. And she said, I just sort of felt like, wow, like she was a little bit, you know, uh, starstruck, but she said, they were just good people wanting to make this world a better place. But she got that exposure because, of the journey she took. But I have a lot, Keith, to point at you and creating the space to have that journey because, here's the magic of this. Lachelle mentioned this is like build those relationships. She knows Martha, right? But if you knew Martha in the early days and where she is today, you're like, wow, that butterfly just really took off. And she's a very grateful, very, very grateful individual doing wonderful things. But, you know, it was your rooms that helped her and then this is where I want to go down the path of, is that it's pretty special when you make other people believe in themselves. Maybe they already believe in themselves, but they start to think bigger because of the space that you provided for them to further that belief in themselves and go big. Because Martha went big.
I love this story because I think that's my role now. Like, if you don't know my story, I moved to Melbourne in 1984 as an 18-year-old kid, shit scared that there was a 5 million people city I had to get used to from a small town, 30,000. I got kicked out of home. I don't want to play too much importance on that, but it was very much a part of my story. And I got kicked out of home and put on a train. Basically, I was put on a train. And you just got to work it out, Keith. It's time. You're 18. My dad put me on a train. Work it out. Dad, 5 million people in Melbourne. What was going to happen now? Just work it out. You won't die. Just suck it up, right? Maybe I'm still a little bit angry about that, but anyway, I didn't die. I married Carol. We bought a house. We've been going. We've been out together since 1989. I didn't die. I made it work, and now in 2024, I said, that's 40 years. We paid off the house. I reckon it's time to circle back and help everyone else. I'm not hustling anymore on the way up. I'm sort of gathering strength and looking back. And I very much love that idea that I know a few things. I've been doing it a while and I'm happy to share. And Martha's a very good example of that. We saw her potential, but she didn't see it. And we gathered around and we gave her a bit of a cyber hug. And now look at her. And I'm very proud of that. We were part of that story. That's what my show is, isn't it? That's what my show is.
Yeah, I just sent her a message. I said, we're talking about you.
Yeah, that's my show. And I'm guessing, Lachelle, you've got very similar stories where you saw a sort of an angel in disguise who didn't really see their potential, and you sort of brought it out of them, didn't you?
Yeah, just thinking about the same scenario with Martha, because I met her early in her journey as well. And when she was on my show, she was like, "You want me to be on the show?" And she crushed it. But I think one of the things about community is helping people to be able to hear what they hear inside. A lot of times we don't hear what's inside because what is louder, right? And so when we're able to be in alignment in community, we can start listening to what's inside and then have the confidence to keep moving forward. I remember her journey, and now one of the things that I say too that's important is the modeling component, because I see her doing for others what others did for her. So it's the paying it forward and seeing it in real time. It's just amazing to hear her share. And she, even when we were doing the social Saturday room, which she still is a co-host, getting people to come on stage and helping them to feel comfortable, because that's how it starts. When you get on stage and you start to speak, it's like, turning on the faucet and just letting it go. It's just the beginning, but it's just that step of getting on stage and speaking to where, it can be very scary, but it can really open up so many opportunities.
I totally agree.
Yeah, Keith, this has not been a year ago. I'm looking back at my messages. This was back in 2023.
Oh, wow, that long.
Yeah, it's I was like, you were saying a year ago. No, my goodness, more than that.
Or
I
time
wonder if
flies,
she was
doesn't it?
going. I wonder if the show she was going on was yours, Lachelle.
Oh wow!
I'm
Wow,
not sure. It was a video. It was the first,
that
we
is.
didn't do audio, we did
Oh,
video.
I
isn't
think it
that?
was.
I think we've. Well, I think we've hit that. We've hit it. That's actually what happened. She was going on your show, and we can join the dots.
Here
We
you
were
go.
on
Hold on a
Discord.
second.
And
Yeah,
now,
connected
well,
the dots.
did you hear that? We've joined the dots. We've joined the dots.
We were on Discord back then, right?
Yeah,
You were
yeah.
on
I was doing.
Discord.
I was doing Discord. Yeah, and she did
Yeah.
come to that, but she didn't like it. But this is amazing that you may not have heard this story, Lachelle. But she came on our show the day before your show, and she says, "Oh, this is pretty important. I'm pretty nervous. Can you help me?" And then but now we've actually got the show. She was on. We're joining the dots. This is really good. Isn't that good, Bears? You picked that up.
I'm
This is
just
good stuff.
guessing. So
Well, she can tell us. She can fill in that. Yeah.
But when you talked about being on stage, I don't know if you know this, but I'm going to probably make this my theme song. My favorite song of all time is a song by Pink Floyd called "Comfortably Numb" from the Wall album, because when I first moved to Melbourne, that was my experience. I was so scared all the time that I was just comfortably numb. I just sort of said yes to everything and just went along with it. And this is what it feels like when you begin. You don't know what you got. You don't know what you don't know, and you're in a zone. Some people are not like this. I mean, obviously, some people are confident and they can just wing it. But I remember being at 18, being a little bit like Martha. Well, I got this. My dad got me a job. I got to go. I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't know I got no friends. But I didn't die, and I made it. So I might do a show about that one day, talking about telling your story, because the whole premise of this show, and I'm very interested in this idea. The whole premise of this show is that I feel a little bit uncomfortably numb, talking about me. I really want to tell you that I moved to Melbourne as an 18-year-old kid and I was scared. I'm a man. I'm not supposed to be scared. I'm supposed to be tough. And this is Australian male culture. I'm supposed to be tough and suck it up and be courageous. But I wasn't. I was an 18-year-old kid shit scared 100% of the time. But America, why is that important in storytelling? When can you go too far and how much do you share?
Well, to maybe piece together Bez's comments that he mentioned earlier in the show, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be susceptible to other people and their thoughts, but know your limits. And we each have different limits. I can push the envelope further than perhaps my brother, my daughter, my colleagues, but others might not have that same strength or threshold in which they can cross and push that envelope. But there's also, and this is where I'm tying Bez's comments, there's also a point where you might have a thick skin and feel that rebellious part of you. You want to push the envelope and shame an organization, a person, or an industry. There's no place for that. You got to know where to cross the line. And that varies at an individual level. I can't tell you that what works for me is going to work for you. You may have a bigger or greater tolerance, or you may not have the same tolerance in casting judgment as to where to draw that line.
It's a great discussion for a very, 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 very long time. Isn't it good, Beth?
Oh, just real briefly, I can wear my emotions on my sleeve. I'm quite passionate. I'm half Puerto Rican, half Peruvian. The Peruvian side of me wants to chill out. The Puerto Rican side of me wants to fight you. and and talk back, you know. And I've learned restraint over the years, but sometimes I let it out appropriately, you know, or I use that energy to go fight the fight in a more impactful way. Because as I've made mistakes over my many years, I realize, okay, there could be a better way to put that energy to use, right? And you know, it's something happened to me in the last 2 years in a public forum that I wanted to pick up the chair and throw it at the speaker, you know, like in a public forum because he made some racist innuendos, right? But I restrained, you know, and I walked out of the room and then, but I've learned over the years to ask one question, and that is, what am I, what's my goal? What am I looking to get out of this? What's you know, and that means the next move, or whatever you're gonna do, what's what are you looking to get out of that? What's the purpose? And if and that's how I sort of restrain because then that makes me think. Everybody, like you said, America, that could be different for everybody else. But you know what happened when I restrained myself? I got in my car and I was getting phone calls like, "Oh, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, oh, yeah, what's up?" "Oh, yeah, that was pretty crazy, wasn't it?" And I'm like, "Oh, so it wasn't just me being sensitive, right?" And and then I had my plan, and my plan was impactful. I reached to a higher level uh, by the next meeting with my beloved organization. They issued a pub. I demanded, and I got a public apology in front of the whole organization. So that to me was more impactful because, you know, sometimes there is no place for racist innuendos. I strongly believe that I, I think we should be further along. I know we're not, but don't do it in front of me because I'm not going to take too kindly to it.
Yeah, I love this. I think it's very, very important. Um, I might. We've been going about 3.5 hours. I'm very happy for you to keep going on this, but the strength of the community, and this is very important to me. I've started an idea called Anchor Day. There's only one of me. I do get burnt out, and I get tired. I get hungry. So every Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the morning, which is 8 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to do a show about a topic that we can all contribute to, right? And we share our stories and we share our tech. And next week we're talking about LinkedIn Live events and we're going to talk about Ikigai. So I'm starting this new idea called Anchor Day. And if you listen to the replay, you'll notice that the first 5 minutes I almost gave up. In my mind, I thought I'll give it about 30 seconds. I actually had 2 goes at it. And then Americo turned up and saved the day. Do, 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 do. He came and saved the day. I was going to kill it. I was going to kill the show because there was no one there. So I'm doing this show every week. I'd love you to be part of it. You can hear now how much we all get out of it. Hopefully, people listening to the replay will as well. Next week, we're talking about the power of LinkedIn audio events. So what I'll do is I'll give everyone a chance to wrap up, and then I'm going to go and get some food and a cup of tea and honor my body because it's very difficult sitting here for 3 hours. Lachelle, what do you think are the main takeaways today? And what would you like to say about this format and how people who might want to start doing their own content, how do they begin?
I would say be you. Um, Take people on the journey in real time. I think a lot of times we spend too much energy trying to create what we think is the best thing instead of just being organic. Because I find that when I am organic in the things that I do, they create a legs that I would have never even imagined. right? It just ends up, you know, I just never would have imagined that I would be having being a part of this community from one live event. And I think that's a testament to intention, because you can have a show and it could be a great conversation, but there's also a responsibility to keep that going. It's like, if you have a party and, it's up to us as the host to follow up with the people that attended,
Yeah.
whether it's thanking them for their presence or sending them whatever we promised that we were going to give them later. A lot of that responsibility falls on us as host.
Yeah.
And I just say you did a great job, because what could have just been a one and done experience, oh yeah, that was nice to be on your show, you just had a way of engaging and incorporating me to feel like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've known him forever. You know what I mean? And we've had several conversations,
Yeah.
whether it's through the DMs or even live in a conversation, that I think it's important to be authentic, because this is how those type of collaborations begin. It's just showing up, being your true self,
Yeah.
and it creates more organic opportunities to grow, just like this situation with Zane. So I'm just glad to have been here, and I think a lot of people spend too much time trying to be somebody else than being their true self.
Oh, I love this. I just love that whole comment, because you're right. You came to one show we had never met, but we kept it alive. We kept the flame alive. We kept it going. And there's something that comes from the host that says you are always welcome, and this is an open discussion, and we are like a family. And if you're
Mhm.
free, you can come, and if you can't, we get it. And when you're free and you're open and you're in there, you're with us, because you feel welcomed. Yeah, you're not just. It's not just a functional place. We've all been to these events that are very functional, and then they pitch at the end. These are not that. These are these really lovely, warm conversations that have a long tail. We're circling back to the Martha discussion, which happened in 2023. So almost probably 2 years ago. We've joined those dots, which was a bit of a light bulb moment for us. I love this. I love this. Now, Bez, you've shared so many great stories today. What you want to really sort of hone in on what Zane could do and what people can do from this experience. You've given us great, great, great advice.
Um, I love what Lachelle said, that you know s- my experience has been that sometimes you try to master plan stuff because you think you know what people want, and it's the thing you do organically that you don't think is going to make a big impact, that all of a sudden you get a bunch of feedback saying, oh, that was phenomenal, and you're like, it was. You probably spent less time with it, but it was from the heart, it was more organic, and it landed. And those are those moments that we strive to manufacture, and when we strive to manufacture, it doesn't work, right? It's got to be that, from the heart. The timing has to be right. The stars have to align, and you don't know when that's going to be. You just got to keep on. So I love what Lachelle just said there, because I've seen that happen a few times. In fact, I was searching for an email, like somebody sent me an email about something I thought was not so great, and they're like, "You need to lead with this. This was 10 out of 10." I was like, really? But back to I just Zane or anybody else, I think um I love that he was here open for feedback. And I think feedback is hard to take in sometimes, right? And I think sometimes, my advice to people is let go, see where the feedback takes you, be open to receiving it, because when you open yourself to it, you're actually opening that side of the brain that we call the growth mindset, right? And magical things start to happen. Now, look, if you're not really resonating with the person that says that, test what they tell you or what they advise you in. Test it out, because the worst thing is it doesn't work, and you can go back to your ways. But receiving feedback is hard for all of us, right? We sort of throw up that wall, myself included. But people say that get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that's so cliche. But no, don't make it so cliche. Make it real. Make it real to you.
Yeah.
And seek that, because that's where growth will happen. Because if you ain't stretching that muscle, you really probably aren't growing like you think you are. I'll just land it there.
I love that. That is a great way to say it. Be open to critique, open to exploring. Mate, America, you have grown so much since December. Let's just pick up on what's happened this year. In December, LinkedIn audio events went away, and a group of us were scurrying around trying to work out how to maximize this new format. You and I have embraced it with open arms, and you've kicked major goals as a result, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll go as far as saying nothing good happens in a comfort zone. And we were comfortable until LinkedIn pulled the rug from under us. But rather than sticking our heads in the sand and just riding into the sunset, we adapted and we adopted as what's next? How can we keep building this legacy? And that's exactly what we did. And from what Bez and what Lachelle and what you have shared, I have two words that are sticking. That's intent and impact. We came in with an intent. We came in as our authentic selves, good intentions, no agenda. Well, no motive. It was just come here, have a conversation, and build a narrative around storytelling.
Yeah.
With good intentions, what did I do? I shared a story with you that started in Edmonton. A friend of mine reached out to me and said, "Hey, I heard this story on a radio show. I was listening to Dylan and Pepper in the morning. And this guy came on and he poured his heart and he spoke about his struggles with looking for work, looking for a job. How can I help them? I want to write a piece of content. Can you help me proofread it? Can you help me make sure that it makes an impact?" I said, "I'll do better than that. Why don't you put him in touch? Share his profile with me." I reached out to him today. He instantly connected. I jumped on the show. The subject matter, everything was aligned. And that intention, our good intention to bring this story across the globe, we're now making an impact like no other.
I love it. I'm going to reach out to them. I've found their podcast. It's on Spotify and Apple as well. Fascinating. I'm going to see if I can reach out to them and we can brainstorm what this might mean. But I think we've created a bit of a miracle here. If Zane gets a job as a result of that, that's a great win for us and a great feeling. So I'm gonna leverage that and see if I.
Did we lose you?
He might. The
I think we
underwater.
lost him. Yeah.
Yeah, the underwater cables are corroding the internet. It's it does happen if you talk long enough, you'll warm up those cables. Somebody told me that this. I went to an outdoor event and this guy and we were talking. He's like a techie guy, and he goes, we're talking in a group, and he goes, "Yeah, if this gets going, you can't shut him up." And I'm like, "Look, what?"
But anyway, look, I better go. The signal is degrading. I've found the link to Dylan and Pepper, so I'll be leveraging that. See if I can find them. I'm going to go and get some lunch and see if I can get my internet back. So you guys take care. Please, please, please share this around. And if you're listening
Yeah.
to the replay, we do 2 shows a week. Where is Keith today? Is the link. So thanks so much for being part of the community, and we'll see you on the other side.
Keith, I have a quick question before you go.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think?
Um, this conversation was really good. I'd love to throw it into my Otter.ai. I've got like 6,000 minutes a month.
Okay, can you do that?
Yeah. Where is it going to be somewhere? You said
Let's
YouTube?
play this out because we're doing a whole show about transcripts, and this is perfect timing. So this show goes to LinkedIn and YouTube.
Okay.
This particular show. So if you want to, I'm pretty sure Otter can take this event.
Oh yeah.
And make it.
And transcribe it. Yeah.
I think it can transcribe a YouTube video. So in a
Yeah.
few weeks, I'm actually going to be talking about how to do it. How do we do all of this backstory? And it's going to be the social audio tech check. I would love for you to do something with this file and tell us how you did it, because I've got to be honest, I'm a bit puzzled by that too. I don't think
I'll
LinkedIn
share it with
creates
you
a
guys.
transcript, but
I'll
YouTube
share.
does. How are you going to do it? What do you think you might do?
Well, there was so many gems dropped here by everybody that I was like, man, I'd love to maybe make a post about that or pontificate a little bit more about that. All I'm going to do is transcribe it right now, and what Otter does is it does a pretty good job, and then it also does a good job of summarizing it and gives some key points and key takeaways.
Do you just punch the links in, or what do you need? Do you need a YouTube video?
Shoot, I connect it to everything I do, so I show up for a Zoom call, whatever, it's recording.
You're recording now.
No, it actually not. I'm not recording now. That's why I want to bring it in. If it's not on my calendar, like it's gotta be allowed to come in. So usually you're talking about Zoom, but or Google Meet or other things. But there's other ways to transcribe stuff. So I'll bring stuff in, like the YouTube, and I can bring it in. You know what would be cool, Keith? You might want to throw this conversation in Notebook LM and see what it.
Where do we get it? That's the point. Where do we get the transcript?
No. The whole, I believe you can throw.
LinkedIn doesn't work. YouTube doesn't work. I've tried it.
On Notebook LM?
Doesn't work. Doesn't pick it up.
Okay. Now it won't, like if you just gave it the link, it won't do anything with it in Notebook LM?
Doesn't work.
Oh.
What do you do, Lachelle? How do you get transcript of things?
Oh, so like if you have it on YouTube, well, I haven't looked up a transcript in so long, but you can click on the dots and get the transcript. It's the raw form. You could take the timestamps off and then just take that and then just edit it, but I think you can take the link. Once the link is live, you can put the link in Otter, and then it can break it up for you.
Yeah, I think
Let's do that. Let's try that. I'd be very interested to know how you go, Bez, because that's a piece of the pie I struggle with. Have you got any ideas about this, Americo? Have you tried to do a transcript from your show?
Oh yeah, my daughter is saying, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, please.
My daughter Faith, that loves your accent. She's like, is that the guy from Australia again?
Look, let me do a little bit of Aussieisms. This is very, very cool.
Yeah.
So in Australia, we shorten everything because we just we're so relaxed. We just shorten everything. So in Australia, we have a whole series of. I'm just looking for how to speak Australian. There's a whole decoder on this, and we shorten everything. So instead of saying I'll see you in the afternoon, we'll say we'll see you this Arvo.
Oh,
See you
wow.
see you this Arvo. So we everything is shortened. See you this Arvo. Instead of paying, I've got to pay the registration on my car. We say, got to pay the rego, right? And, instead of saying I'm getting petrol at the petrol station, we say, I just got some fuel at the servo. We shorten everything. That's because we're lazy. I'm lazy,
It sounds a lot like
and
me. It sounds a lot like me.
we shorten everything.
She said,
So,
she
yeah.
said that sounds like her. She's 13.
Oh
So
wow.
she says that sounds like her. Yeah.
She just shortens everything and wants to sort of get to it quickly.
Keith, you're the human texting.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
So look, it's a pretty funky place, Australia. I'd really recommend you try getting here because we're pretty friendly, and I'm pretty proud to be Australian. So I can teach you.
Did we lose him?
We lost them again.
We lost him.
Oh, okay.
All right. And we lost him.
You guys were talking about the different formats.
The otter, yeah,
think
or
is
the
what-
transcription, yeah. How do you do it, Americo?
Mhm.
So I usually get my transcripts for shorter events from YouTube Studio.
Welcome to come. You're very welcome to come and join us.
Yeah,
In fact, I think we've got someone calling in right now. So
Are we?
We missed that whole thing because you got disconnected or something.
Yeah.
Oh, but you're inviting are we having the teen generation join us on the call? Is
I
that
think
what you're saying?
someone
Keith?
tried to join. It might have been me, but unfortunately in Australia we have very, very, very bad internet, and it's a very, very long cable. It's got to go under the water. I think someone's having a tea break at the cycle station, but where our internet is so bad, and it does embarrass me, but I'm just leaning into it. So what Bez is going to do is he's going to try and find a transcript of this. I do have this one sent to YouTube today, so let's leverage this as a discussion. And then on this show, which is about repurposing in a couple of weeks, we'll gather again and share our knowledge, because everyone needs to know this. Because we got to keep it moving. We got to wag the tail, haven't we?
Right.
But I
Right.
better go.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna have a bit of a lunch and find that document for you, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks so much for being part of our community. We love it. We're very proud of it, and we kick a lot of goals. So as they say here, we'll see you later.
All right.
See you later.
Hang 10.